Excuse me. Happy Friday. How's everybody doing? It is Friday night. Let's see who's in tonight. I've got a few people on board this evening. It's great to be here again. Thank you for showing up. I do appreciate it. Um, see how things going in everybody's neck of the woods. We will be starting next Friday. We'll be doing a little bit different Friday night fellowship, so to speak. We're going to take a different path next week. Maybe you like it, maybe you won't. We'll see how things are going. But we'll wait a few minutes, see who else gets in here. But I think we're going to change things up a little bit. Good evening, Brother Jorge. It's good to see you. How are you? How are things up in that neck of the woods? I hope well. But I was just saying that we're taking a different path starting next Friday. We're going to go a little different direction. I'm always changing directions, doing something new. So I've got 3 studies planned for the next 3 Fridays. I think we're going to work on, but we're going to do a little bit. It's getting cool. Yeah, it gets cooler a lot faster up there, doesn't it? Down here, it doesn't get as fast, but although we're supposed to have some cool weather coming, I think we're supposed to be in the low 80s this weekend. As far as I know, we're going to be in the low 80s coming up. So it's funny because in September, low 80s up in the Northeast is one beautiful day, but down here it's would be considered a bit of a cool day. So, but I was saying that we're going to take a different direction starting next Friday. We're going to be doing some studies along the way. I have 3 on the docket. Not sure which one I'll do first. I always pray about it and see where the Spirit leads me. But I got 3 on the docket. I have a few more that I'm working on. So I think we're going to change the format a little bit, and we'll do some studying, some different studies. Although, I hate to use the word improv, but we will improv a little bit as time goes on. So, hey, how did your garden work out this year? I'm curious how that garden worked out with the girls and helping you out there. I'm sure that's gone well. We've had an average year down here. It's been an average year, I guess you could say, for the garden. Um, we still got the fall weather, which we'll get a lot of. We did not plant spinach like I had wanted to, um, but we will get some trees in. Some more bushes will go in as time permits, so we'll get that going. Some more apple trees. We do got the pecan trees. I don't know if I told you that. But we have pecan trees back here. Did not know that when we first got the property. I had basically raised down the whole back area. I just wasn't even looking at what was out there, paid attention. I just hired a guy to come out with a skid steer and just really go to town out there, bushwhack the whole area because I didn't know. I heard some of it was water, or I was told some of it might be water. I had no idea. So hired some guys, came in, cleared that out, and turns out we had pecan trees. Who knew? We also have wild blackberries and wild raspberries that are there. I'm not sure there's stuff growing out there. I haven't checked. Like I said, framing this summer had me laying down a lot of days off. I think planting berries would be a lot less maintenance. Yeah. And berries come back. So if you got a good bunch of blackberries and raspberries and blueberries and so forth, they just come back. So that's a beautiful thing. We had tomatoes come back this year that were still there, didn't plant new ones, and got a pretty good load of grape tomatoes. So that's pretty cool. But now with the pecan trees, now that I know that they're out there, we have I think is either 6 or 8 of them, roughly 6 or 8. So pecan, however you pronounce it. People pronounce it both ways. We're going to let those grow up. We got a persimmon tree as well out there. So we'll let that tree grow up. Listen, God's great. You know, we tend to think or forget that God gave us the land and plants out there to live off. So we have all these different ones. Hey, good evening, Christopher. It's great to have you aboard. Nice to see you, man. How are you doing today? If you don't mind me mentioning, Chris, on air to Jorge, what we're going to be praying for you about. I don't want without your permission to say anything. I don't, some people don't like their business being out there, so I'll leave that up to you. Yeah, so we got them pecan trees. I didn't know we had out there growing 6 to 8 of them. So we'll get those up and going. The persimmon tree we got out there, like I said, we got all the wild raspberries and blackberries. So we'll work more coming up, getting this going. It's fine. All right, brother Jorge, you're the only one here at the moment, it looks like, and Christopher, well, maybe 2 other people. But Christopher has brother Chris has a surgery coming up. The exact specifications of the back, I don't know where, but he's got a pretty hefty duty one coming up in. I apologize. I believe it's in September. No, is it in September? I'd have to look at my text messages. So sorry, brother Christopher. I don't remember the day, but he's got a big surgery coming up. So let's keep him in our thoughts when that time comes up. Well, we should keep each other in our thoughts all the time, but we'll pray for him. So, Jorge, if you could add him in to your prayers, he's got a big one coming up. Did I just September 3rd? So it is September. All right, so we're like roughly 10 days away, or something like that. So that'll be on our minds. We'll keep you in our prayers for that one. But yeah, so I'm always surprised at how awesome. All prayers are welcome. That God gave us all these things. But like I said, Brother Chris, you weren't here earlier when I was talking about it, but we are going to be going a different direction in the upcoming weeks. I always have this live stream, this fellowship, to let it be whatever it is. I let it be organic most of the time, but we're going to have some studies coming up in the next few weeks, different subjects. I have 3 of them on my docket, working on some other ones down the road. So we'll change up the format a little bit. But still, even with those there, we may not even get through it, that things might go in different directions. I let things organically take place. I don't. I try not to hinder too much, unless it's going down some weird path that it doesn't need to be on. Then maybe I'll redirect. But just let you know on that. But yeah, it's a good thing when God has given you even a small parcel of land that you can grow off of. Yes, you can have a bigger piece of land and grow more food to be able to help folks along the way, because I think that time will come. But it's a small amount is even good. I think we're up to like 16 chickens, 15 or 16 chickens. I think we started out with 9. Now we got 15, 16, and we didn't buy them. Those chickens, they can get broody. So we didn't catch them in time, and some of them hens sat on them eggs for a while, so we ended up getting more birds. I guess in a way that means more eggs. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited for that. The egg count. I want chicken coop to. We're gonna have to blow out the wall of the chicken coop, since God has blessed us with more chickens. We're gonna have to make a mansion out there at this point for all the chickens, or build a barn out there somewhere, and so they have a place to wander into. We were gonna do one of those lean-tos a while back for goats, but we decided we're not going to go in the goat direction. We're going to stay off that. We would like to get the meat birds started next year. Whether it happens or not, I don't know, but we'll see how that works out. We got a game plan to put a fishing, cleaning station, prep area, along with chickens. when we kill them or slaughter them, how we want to look at it for sustenance. So, but yeah, it still cracks me up that we have pecan trees, and I didn't even know we had pecan or pecan trees. I did not know we had them, and that's a couple of years of growth that we chopped down, not knowing what they were. Um, and we get some wild elderberry on the other side, some wild strawberries as well. And that's the greatness of God in creation, to have all these things that are on your property and you're on your land and in the woods that you can live off of. Um, there's a thing called agroforestry. I have nothing against agroforestry. I think it's a wonderful thing, but agroforestry is pretty much like what your grandmother would have done, right? Your grandparents, they were doing agroforestry kind of before agroforestry was even a cool thing to say. Um, been living off the land forever. I think we've lost that ability, unfortunately. Uh, God gave us the original instincts to survive and to look at these things and not having to depend on anyone else. Not depend on grocery stores, not even to depend on pension plans and all this other kind of stuff. You were able to live off your land. Yes, government hampered you somewhat, and then government comes in and decides they will give you money as well. So they took away your rights to live off the land 100% without taxes, and then they want to help you out by giving you some money that you have to pay taxes on. Ain't it crazy how that works out? I know I side shifted a little bit there, but I think we sometimes take for granted. I know I have for years taken for granted what we have out there, even up north when we're up there, what was on our property. We forget all these things. Hey, Brother Calvin, it's great to see you. I'm here, bro, just making some Cuban coffee, but listening. It'll take about 5 to 7 minutes. All right. Never had Cuban coffee. I don't drink coffee. I get in trouble for that a lot, that I don't drink any coffee, but I never touch the stuff. I thought maybe when I would get older that somehow I would be more sophisticated and I would drink coffee. I don't like it. I don't even like tea, except for blueberry tea. I actually like blueberry tea. I have no idea why, but I like blueberry tea. I don't like, I was going to say chameleon, not chameleon tea, chamomile and blue gray or Earl Grey or anything like that. Hey, there's a coffee drinker right there. Hey, that man needs coffee up there. Cuban coffee would make you awake until the morning this late at night. But yeah, I don't know why he's drinking so late at night. Why are you drinking so late at night, Calvin? So late at night. But yeah, we're just discussing. I'll reiterate, Calvin, you weren't here earlier, but you may be here once in a while. But we're going to be reformatting how we do live stream Friday nights. We're going to do some studies. But again, I like to let things be organic and let them go where they go. But I would like to have a framework, and we can start studying something, and then and I got the next 3 weeks I've got planned there on the docket, and after that I've got a couple ideas, and we'll go from there. But we'll see how things roll out. So you guys actually here. So I'm going to tell you, I don't have it on my regular part of my channel, but I'll tell you this. I was wondering if I was going to mention this at all. When Brother Jorge knows that I have another channel, and it's really to do with history. You'll see Roman Catholicism involved in there, a different, a little bit of biography stuff, a different path, just a different way of doing things. And I like to keep those things separate from here. When we talk about on this channel, when I'm doing anything to do with the Bible or anything like that, I don't like to mix in historical events or long history. whether it be Eberhard Nessels or Kurt Allen or Westcott Hoare or Vietnam or the Catholic Church or Nigeria, the Atlantic slave. That I keep separate, because that's something that really interests me. Those of you know me. At one point I dropped out of high school when I was in sophomore year. I remember my mother to this day saying, "School's not for everybody," and I said, "I'm on board. School's not for everybody. I'm out of here." I was not a good kid. I was not a good student. I knew all the stuff. That doesn't mean to be precocious, but kind of already knew what they were teaching. No big deal. Of course, you never know until you leave high school how very little you actually know. But and then I went back to school and I got my GED. And then I decided to go to Worcester State College. Brother Jorge probably knows where that is. I think it's called University now. I think they changed all the college names to University. But I went to become a history teacher, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to be a teacher. So I left that game. Didn't get involved. So I think, like most men, we like history. So over on that channel, the Wayfaring Outcasts, the Wayfaring Outcast podcast, there we'll be talking about a lot of those different things. For me, I wish there's some decent history channels out there, but unfortunately, some of the podcasts, they get into some foul language or they get into some secular stuff. And I just, from a born-again Christian, I wanted something out there for born-again Christians that do enjoy history and would like to listen to a clean program. So that will be an option. Next week is where I'm hoping to get up another one. I did a couple of episodes. I didn't get real too in-depth on. I just covered some superficial stuff just to kind of get it going. But next week we'll start a serious one. We will actually be talking about the Atlantic slave trade route, Japan, Roman Catholicism, Nigeria, a lot of things that I never knew and I still don't hear much of because people don't want to talk about like the Roman Catholics, but so that's where I'm going with that. But we will have on this channel studies the next every Friday, most of the time. We'll get into some heavy stuff. We'll talk about discernment. We'll talk about divorce and remarriage. We'll talk about subservient women, what that's supposed to look like. Some stuff that people get mad about all the time. We're going to talk a lot about things. I think my wife is old school as well as I am about women being on the YouTube preaching and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. But other than that, what I didn't ask, I asked Christopher how he's doing. I asked Brother Jorge how he's doing. Brother Calvin, how are you doing down there? Clearly, you're drinking coffee. We have now established that Calvin is drinking coffee. It's cafe con leche, brother. Wait, you're from Miami? Wow. Decades or so. I was reading the other day, or it was a short. Yeah, it was a short that came up on my YouTube about Florida's going to disappear in like 50 years or something like that because of such a low-lying land. The only places I've been into Florida is Bradenton, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida, Pensacola, Florida. Where else have I been? Well, Pensacola, Florida has the Bible Baptist bookstore, so I was over there while we were down on vacation in the Gulf Shores. Orlando, went to Orlando. I went to Orlando in 1986. I want to say 86, right in that area, in 1986. I was like 12 or 13 years old at that point, and my father brought me to Disney World. That's because we had relatives that lived in Bradenton, Florida. Brother Calvin probably remembers, or maybe I'm not sure how old Brother Calvin is, but Tampa Bay Buccaneers was huge, and they were just Miami Dolphins always has been, but Tampa Bay Buccaneers up in that area are pretty huge. They had the ugliest orange uniforms. I remember going to this restaurant, and I probably told the story before. I went to this restaurant down the road, and he said decades. All right. There you go. Well, it could be, 3 could be many. That's a few decades. 4 maybe. All right. All right. Thanks for calling me out, Brother Jorge. I appreciate it. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, they had the ugliest orange uniforms, and I went to this restaurant, and I remember what the New England Patriots uniforms looked like, because back in my day, it was red and white, and it had a guy on the side of the helmet, just like a football stance. But it was the ugliest restaurant I think I had ever been in my life. Great food, though. They had great breakfast. So I guess you can't judge the breakfast by the color of the interior of the restaurant. But that was a nice place down there. I enjoyed that. Another place we ate is Gulf Shores. That's good food over there as well. But Florida's nice. I like just looking at the ocean. The ocean is just warm. More. Poor Brother Calvin. We're just trying to guess his age and try to ballpark where his age is. My goodness. But 4 is not a bad guess. But my guess is I think he's probably roughly my age, maybe a little bit older, judging by his conversations. But we are missing a few people I noticed tonight, but that's okay. It's a Friday night. You get stuff to do out there. It's beautiful out there. It's a cool evening. Well, in Tennessee, it's a cool evening, I guess. It's 80 degrees? I'm not sure what it is down there in Florida. Probably about 4 degrees warmer. I don't know. 5 degrees warmer. 8 degrees warmer. Now you feel I'm starting my 5th decade. Yeah. 5 decades. Ain't it amazing how time flies? It is amazing how just time keeps going by. And we work until we die. Hopefully I won't get that far along. Hey, Urban Forest. Good to see you, brother. Nice to have you here. Thanks for coming. No way. I'm 61 and lived. See, I thought you were a little older than me. I had a feeling because we had a brief conversation on something. I'm 61 and lived in Braden. Wait, you lived in Braden from 99 too. I was down there around 86, 87. I was down there for a month. My father somehow accumulated like a month's worth of time, so we went down there. What's that? That's enough time to build up the tolerance, yeah. But yeah, brother Urban Forest, brother Urban there, brother Urban's. Word to say that. In the upcoming weeks, we're going a little bit different direction. You may have heard me or not, I don't know, but we'll be doing some studies on the next few weeks. 3 of them are already planned on my docket, and there'll be some more coming down the road. But again, if you've been here before, I go in different directions, and I just, whatever we're talking about, and we'll just do it. We go, Brother David. That's right, David. I'm sorry. And see where it goes. I think that's what we'll roll that way. Obviously, it's weird to say interactive, but far too often you see these things that somebody wants to just do all this preaching, but nobody wants to listen. So that's how we're going to go this weekend. But I don't know if Brother Jorge, can you do me a favor? If you got time, if anybody cares, drop that. If you can drop the link to that podcast I don't know if you're able to do that in here. I guess I could. I've never been good at trying to figure out how to drop links in. I tried to myself on somebody else's channel one time, and I couldn't seem to figure it out. But I don't know. But yeah, so if you type in the Wayfaring Outcast, you'll find I can't link anymore. He has to be a mod in order to do it. Oh. All right then. Okay. I don't know how to. I should have been prepared for it, but yeah, if you type in the Wayfaring Outcast on YouTube, you'll find it. I don't know if I can copy it and then send it. Let me see if I can find it. I think it'll be an interesting thing. Let me see if this works. Let me know if that worked, guys. Or anybody. It doesn't matter who. If you click on that, let me know if that brought you to the page. I don't know if it will bring you there or not. I'm learning. I'm learning to do these things a little better. Hey, he says I got it. All right. Cool. All right. Yeah, so next week the serious podcast will be out on the what we'll be talking about, and I don't know. I'll go in different directions. Stuff I enjoy, stuff I'm interested in when it comes to historical facts. I find myself always, it's interesting. Every time I do research on anything, yeah. I remember you telling me that a while ago because remember I made you a hold on. Cool, thank you. I appreciate that. I remember a while back I made you a moderator, and as a moderator, you couldn't see my shorts that I used to do. But I don't really do any shorts. I haven't done a short in I don't know how long. But you couldn't. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why that was. I gotta remember to put you as a moderator on this channel again. Because remember we had to. I forget why. Why did I take you off as moderator? I can't remember. Obviously, you didn't do anything wrong. I think we did it for a reason. You couldn't access something or other. I can't remember. Or it might have been because you were a moderator. You couldn't make a comment on a video or something like that. I don't remember what happened. It's been a while. So hopefully we can fix that down the road. I have no idea. Computers can be interesting. Speaking of all this, computers and YouTubes. So I can view comments and comment on the show. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I was roughly right about that. Okay. But for some reason, we didn't fix the shorts. But the regular, it worked, I think. I don't even know. Because you're not blocked, obviously. So I don't know why that did that. That was weird. But speaking of YouTube, and those of you know me, I've always believed in a sort of underground Christian railroad network idea. I've been talking about that for years. Brother Jorge's known me for a good long time now. Brother Christopher is as well. But computers, I think, will eventually go down. I really think a lot of things will be blocked. A lot of things will be stopped. I think a lot of that's going to happen eventually. And my fear is that if people don't find people in the human form, as if they're going to be aliens. What I mean by human form is in person. I think it's important building a network because it's going to be a time when this all goes away. There's going to be shutdowns on this stuff. You'll be locked out, or your internet won't work, or there's been an outage or stuff like that. Case in point, why I keep money in the house. So don't try coming to rob me. But no. So the new format is on this channel of the biblically based. We'll be talking about scriptures, topics in the Bible. It'll be strictly biblical. The other channel is for historical stuff. Roman Catholicism will be involved, but I keep those two things separate. I don't like mixing two. I think when you have a biblical channel, it should be biblical. It should be about the Bible. It should be about scriptures. Like on tonight, we have fellowship and we just talk. And as born again Christians, we just talk. You know, it's almost like getting together for a cup of coffee. But that's what this. So that this will always be biblical. That's why I just saw you say, okay, I misunderstood. That's no problem. But why I say that is there's wait, what? I got to keep up with the comments here. There's a generation now that are relying on ChatGPT. When I was growing up, it was using Google or a book. Actually, first it was the encyclopedia. Encyclopedia? What is that? I don't think we even... You might find one at a Salvation Army. I don't know. But that's why, by the way, if I'm at a thrift store and find an old book, an original copy of something, even though it's not a famous book, just even in early dates, perfect example I don't have. Excellent. Well, I think it's up there in that box. Is a Booker T. Washington, Up from Slavery. I have one of the original printings of that, not because I want it to be sold at auction, because they didn't take the time back there to really reprint too much or try to change things. But in the modern culture we are in now, people can easily just press a couple buttons now and completely change things. That's why I don't rely on things like the Blue Letter Bible. That seems to be a popular one a lot of people use, but a lot of the online Bibles and stuff like that, which I'm not saying a person is a bad person for using them. I'm just saying I don't rely on them as much because we have a physical copy of the Bible right here. So, you know, my mother bought my first set of World Book encyclopedias in 1975. Wow. So you could be my older brother because you are my elder. So very, very rarely does anyone... I feel like I'm always too old and nobody's my elder, but you are definitely would be older than me. So you're definitely my elder. But anyways, yeah, the other channel is completely separate, but and it's a clean channel about history. But what else? Two things about that. I would love to go back to the way things used to be. Yeah, some things I would definitely like to go back to. I was just thinking about that the other night. My wife and I were talking about that. We were just like, man, now we can get into this whole thing about make America great again, but I never looked at it that way, the whole Trump campaign way of looking at it. I just remember, and maybe because we're younger, we didn't see as much trouble, but things seem to be different and better in a lot of ways. Like kids are not outside playing, right? That's a good thing. We did that all the time. My kids are out all the time. I try to make them go out all the time. Even sometimes when they're trying to be lazy, I'm kicking them out the door. See you later. But they like going outside anyways most of the time, so it works out pretty well. But we do live in a culture, and sadly, it's just not children. It's adults as well that play a lot of video games. Now, I'm not saying you can't play a little game on the Wii station, but we have Wii. We don't have PlayStations. We don't have Xbox. We don't have Atari. Although I did have an Atari 2600 many, many moons ago. Don't say moons. Many, many years ago. But so I had that. But that's something about, I would consider Make America Great Again. I would consider that. Going back to when all the kids were outside. You drive around now, and I don't know what it is like in your neck of the woods, in your neighborhoods, or wherever you live. I see far less children outside than I ever have before. And that's a shame. That is a absolute shame. It blows me away. Man, we would have never dreamed to be inside. It never would have crossed our minds. The only time we were inside is when we were sick and didn't want to go to school. But as soon as school was over, we were feeling great again and we were ready to go outside. We were ready to go outside as soon as all our friends came home. But that part I do miss about the old ways, the old days. Just living simply too. When hamburger didn't cost so much. Remember when you put hamburger in everything? Everybody ate American chop suey, right? Because hamburger was so cheap. Now it's so expensive. It's really a flip-flop of things, kind of like the Republicans and Democrats of the 1960s. So, Republicans were against slavery, Democrats were for it. Then we flipped, and suddenly Democrats are the saviors, and Republicans hate all black people. Amazing how things flip all the time. But what does Ezekiel teach us? There's nothing new under the sun. All these things happen all the time. There's always flip-flopping, changing, swapping. These things are always in existence. But I do, there's parts of the old ways, going outside till the street lights come on. We miss that. And I'll blame my generation. I don't know if I can blame Brother Calvin's generation because he's a couple of years older than me, but because I'm in my 50s. So we created that whole game era, It's almost, 70s, I think you would say, but I think the 80s, the late 70s and into the 80s were the real push. That was the real push of the gaming era and the downfall of kids being on video games all the time. Very consistent. It is, and we do have to. We blame culture all the time, but we have to at some point take a look at ourselves and blame ourselves for things because we partook in it, and then we not only in the participation of it, but then we kept it going. And we was like, no big deal. It's always about fun. And next thing you know, you're not doing anything. How many kids go out going to recreation, going to join a rec team for basketball or anything like that or whatever? I don't see it. What I do like is the modern construction tools I use, but I do enjoy learning the way old timers did things. Yeah. Here's another point. I was just thinking about this the other day again. I was thinking about going to more thrift markets, flea markets, and buying. Sometimes you could just buy a bucket of nails and tools and all kinds of stuff and old stuff because there's a possibility that we could have to worry about that and that we would have to see it. But what I was going to say is, here's one thing I don't enjoy. In the summer and weekends, we ate breakfast and stayed outside till we either got hungry again or the sun started settling. Yeah, and all without parents worrying about our well-being. Those were the days. Yeah. No, that was a good times. Those were good times. Growing up in the late 70s and the 80s, that was a wonderful time to grow up. There's a lot going on. I know that we had the gas. As kids, we didn't know about the gas prices. We didn't know about that. We didn't really know a whole lot. We knew a little bit about Iran-Contra. We didn't know about Jimmy Carter being a moron and all that stuff. We didn't know these things. We were outside and enjoying life. But the kids today are not doing that. They don't have to worry about CNN or NBC or Fox or all the other channels. They don't have to worry about that. So why are they inside? There's no need for them to be inside. They need to be outside, and that's not happening, unfortunately. But remember when you can go to the bank, though, and this is where I was getting to. Remember them savings books? The savings books. You go down there, and they printed the when that little printer machine there and printed out your balance or the new, you put in $6 or $3, whatever it was you put in. But there were no computers. I'm at the bank last Saturday. I go to the bank. I realized I didn't have enough cash on me for what I was doing. So I went back to the bank to get cash. I deal in mostly cash. I try not to use my debit card ever. I think one can be in trouble when it comes to that sometimes. But so I go into the bank to pull out money, S&W savings plans, and I couldn't get money because the computers went down. Think about that for a second. I can't get my money, and that's why. Well, I don't think anybody here is going to be coming trying to attempt to rob me, but that's why I keep money and here. I wish I kept less in the bank. I have more than I want in that bank account. I'm not that like I'm rich. I have millions in the bank. But my point is, I couldn't get my money out briefly because the computers went down. That's easy enough for people to do now, just like your Bitcoins and stuff like that. We're so reliant on computers that we may not get our money. So I was there for about, I'm going to say about 20, maybe 25 minutes. And then finally the computers came back up and running. What happens if the computer didn't get up and running? What happens if someone just needed $20, someone who doesn't have a lot of money or whatever, and need to get groceries? They can't. So that's why, I think this is where I was going. That's why I make preparations for the day they all go down. Exactly what I was just about to say. Wow, we're on the same path there, same wavelength there, buddy. And that's why we do prepare for that eventuality, because it's going to come. That's why we try to live more and more off of our own land, sustainable. I'm not saying that we're going to have to hunker down and get a bunker underground, although I did think about that years ago. You know, the way I heard it said recently was when you put your money in the bank, you're giving the bank a loan with no. Yeah. So what the bank does is they take your money and then they invest your money into whatever they want to invest in. So, you know, I'll quote a movie in a second, but yeah. Someone else once said, and I can't remember who it was, and I agree. Oh, if it comes to my mind, I'll tell you who it is. I can't remember who it is. But they were basically saying, it's not your money anymore. You gave away your money. You gave up your money. Yes, you supposedly have money in that bank, but you don't have money in that bank. And it reminds me of, and I don't know if his name is Mr. Potter or the banker Potter. I forget his name, but in It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, we're going to a classic movie here. And I, by the way, don't really care for the movie all that much. I didn't think it was that great. But something I always enjoyed was the bank scene. I've always found that interesting. And it's maybe that's what started me on the path of realizing about physical gold and silver and, you know, cash and just being prepared for whatever. That this is not, I know I might be going a little off biblical, but this is just fellowship. We're all talking. It's coffee shop time, except I'm not drinking coffee, but it qualifies because Brother Calvin is. So we can count Calvin in. We're all having a cup of coffee with Calvin, Brother Calvin. So, and hanging out. But and they came to get their money out of the bank. And he said, well, I don't have your money. Joe has your money. Mary has your money. Bob has your money. And that's the thing, that they don't have your money. It's often been said if everybody went down to their bank account to get their money, there'd be nothing there. It's not all there, especially if you have a small town bank. That's being shipped in from a larger bank, somewhere else. So what happens when the system goes down? What happens when these computers shut down? A lot of people and these online preachers who are not ever in society, boy, they're going to be left on an island. Think about all the money you've sent to some of these people. Now, I'm not saying not all these people out there are bad. Some people are doing good things out there. That's why I never did want to take money or get into it. And Brother Christopher knows, I did it for maybe a month. Not even. I don't even think I did it for a full month. I had a give, send, go where I was thinking, I'll raise money to buy more gospel tracts and Bibles, because that's what we usually do. We buy gospel tracts, and we put them in all these. They're door hangers, but we actually put them in the mailboxes along with Bibles and stuff like that. But then I felt guilty just about that. So I stopped doing that. So because I work for a living, so I'll do it myself, kind of thing. That's how I felt about that. I'm like, I don't think it's right to ask people for money. I just have a real hard time with that. And so, yes, I know that I'm doing it and it goes to gospel tracts and so forth, but you could do that. You don't need me to do it. I mean, so that's how I feel about that. But yeah. Oh, you're going to bring this up every time we talk about money. Some people feel good about using Tithely. Yes. Brother Calvin, Brother Christopher, Brother Urban, Brother David, if you're still here, if you have not heard the story, you have got to go on the internet and you have got to find Tithely. You just have to. It is a necessity of the utmost to find Tithely. I don't know if I can pull it up, put it on the screen. I could try, but you know me, I'm not exactly completely skilled about this. Let's see if I can, because then I have to share the screen and see if I can pull that off. I don't know if I can do all that. Well, I can't figure out. Nah, it's not going to work. I don't think it's going to work. But you guys got to look up Tithely. That is the funniest thing in the world. It is an app. It is an official app that you can. Let me see if I move this over here. Give me 1 second. Put that over there. Bring this up over here. I don't know if I can. Hold on. Let me see if I can share screen this. I'm doing this live time. I'm not usually good at doing these things. Let's see. It says share screen. Your entire screen. Let's see if I can bring it up. Okay. Hey, it worked. All right, I was able to pull it up. All right. So, what happened? Oh man, I lost it. All right, well. All right. So Tithely is a app that you can donate. You can donate to your favorite pastor, preacher, stuff like that. Let's see if I can. I can't. Oh well. If it's what feels right, that's important. What important? Just joke is terrible. Yeah. So and yeah, if it doesn't sound right, it definitely doesn't sound right. So you can give to people like Rick Warren, and you think I'm kidding, but his church is in there. Saddlebrook or Saddle Rock, Saddlebrook, Saddle something or other. I forget what the name of that abomination church is, but you can go on your phone and you can type in what you want to tithe to that church or that pastor or that preacher. Wow. From the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go. You don't even have to be there. You can just type it in. That is insane. And I don't know how I found it. Brother Jorge says I'm the one who did find it. So I probably did. But I don't know how I found it. I think I was looking up, buy a cup of coffee. I put on my other channel because I'm okay with that. Source saddle. Yeah. You know what came up? So a friend, a sister of Christ, there is a church in England, and it is the Diocese of Leeds or something like that. It's an Anglican church, and they are in, I think they're, what do you call them, in the sister churches or whatever, with Rick Warren. So this Anglican church, I think it's called the St. John's St. John's Church of Yeardon or Leeds, and it is associated, well, using the ESV, and I'm pretty certain that they're one of their woman priests, because, by the way, they are fine with women preachers, which, red flag. Well, ESV was already a red flag, and then the being part of Rick Warren, another red flag, that we have a bad church, and then we have that whole situation. The woman looks like you know, our base looks sometimes, but she looks like she might be, you know what I'm saying, an abomination or a lesbian, whatever you want to call it. But then I did some further digging on this church, and they also, the Anglican Church of Leeds, or the Diocese of Leeds, had on their Facebook the flyer for Gay Pride Parade or Gay Pride Day. So there you have it. That's where your Anglican Church is. That's where even your Roman Catholic Church. And some, no, it's not. Look around you. You know, it's pretty sad. But when you got Rick Warren, when your theology is running right next to Rick Warren, we got some major problems right off the bat. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but did not Rick Warren make a joke a while back with Elton John? Oh, wouldn't Christians get all uptight if we kissed? What kind of satanic stuff is that to say? That should be a red flag right there. I mean, come on. You're hanging out with Elton John. Kind of reminds me of Billy Graham and hanging out with the world. I won't say how he started. I wasn't where he started, but he was a lot of people say where he started. In fact, you know who does a good job on it that I got from Brother Calvin's site? Who is the guy who talks a good deal about it? Dave Hunt. Dave Hunt talks about Billy Graham as well. But these churches, if I was going to throw out a number, I'd say, and I'm probably being very gracious here, 5% are probably running right. You know, people who know me know that I'm not pro and I'm not anti. And what I mean by that is I do believe that they exist. There are some small buildings somewhere out there that are doing it right. But for the majority, they're not. They're just not. Make America Great Again, or what we're talking about, Make America, or going back in the old days. I wish I could have been a Baptist before 1868, before the Civil War, when they were still actually closer to the King James Bible than they are now. And I know people are like, wait, Baptists don't use the King James Bible. I'm talking about living. Because remember, pre-1868, Baptists would have had a huge problem with a Christmas tree in their churches. Christmas was not in their churches. It was not in their buildings. It wasn't until 1868. And somebody can go ahead and fact check me, because I'm pretty sure it's 1868, but I could be wrong. I'm willing to be corrected on that. If I'm wrong on that one, I apologize. But that's when it crept in. Because you got to remember, the Germans who came over up in Pennsylvania in that area are the ones the Lutherans, the Episcopal, all of them, they brought that over. The Amish, not the Amish. That's a time out of life for me. And I'm not saying anyone in here is not godly, but I do believe the godly men of 1860, about the godly men of 1825 were probably more godly than us in 2025. And I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anyone, because I'm including myself in that. And I will say this, that I've said this to other people, I am probably a quarter, maybe a tenth of a man that my great-great-grandfather was, because they had to deal with more things than we ever had to think about. We talk about the modern tools, nothing wrong with modern tools, but imagine what they did back then without those modern tools. So I think about those things, and for me, I strive to be more like that, to have the mentality. the approach, the living for God like they did then. Not getting bogged down a lot of stuff, some stuff interesting. And I bring this up and because some people that watch me know me from that I pop up in another channel once in a while and I watch. I am, that's not right here. I was going to look for my TR. I am interested in TR and I'm interested in Greek, but not because I want to prove the Bible. Believe it or not, before the whole TR thing, getting into any of that and the King James, any of that years and years ago, I actually did want to learn Greek. French was number one on my list. Spanish was second. Greek was third. And sign language, I just tried to kind of pick it up as I went. Because I always thought it'd be cool if I could learn different languages and go to those places. The reason I wanted to learn Greek is because I wanted to go to Greece because it's near the Mediterranean. I thought that must be a beautiful place, and that's kind of why I wanted. But Hebrew, ironically, I've never wanted to learn. I never had the interest. That's probably going to offend some people, but never had the interest to learn Hebrew or even Aramaic for that matter. But we get bogged down a lot of stuff, and I think about our great-great-grandfathers who didn't get into the TR debate, the Masoretic texts, the Septuagint, all the papyri. They were just godly men that read the King James Bible and lived godly lives. They lived men. They worked hard every day. Some might have worked in coal mines. Some might have worked in factories. Others worked out on the farms. They sure and heck didn't sit home collecting checks from welfare, from the government, all those things. You know what I just learned, actually, not too recently? There's a YouTube channel I'll watch every once in a while, a history channel, and they were talking about Rome and Caesar. And did you know they came up with the first system to, now, I could be wrong, but they came up with a very good military system of paying their military personnel that a pension when they left the military, and then because they paid them, they could bring them back into service anytime they wanted to. Interesting, because I think America does almost identical the same thing. That generation lived by the Bible. Yes, sir, they did. Amen. I really believe that wholeheartedly. If they were saved, I mean, obviously there are people back then who didn't read the Bible. And I'll even say some of those people who weren't Christians back then still worked harder than the people today. And I'm not putting down anyone in today's world, today's generation. I'm not saying and none of us here work hard. I'm not saying that at all. I think most of us here do work hard. I'll say right now, I think Brother Jorge works harder than me any day of the week. You know? My paternal grandpa was born in 1902 and grandma in 1903 and had 15. Yeah, and you could kind of get away with feeding them too. 15 children, 13 lived in adulthood. The hardships today pale and compared. Yes. You know, I used to make a joke one time. I says, we stub our toe, we call it a bad day. But Paul spent his whole time in prison and he didn't complain. You know, you got up, you went to work, you didn't sit home, you didn't have YouTube channels. Yes, I know I have a YouTube channel, but what I'm saying is they didn't, like, at 23 not work hard. And people say, well, I'm not going to work for the government and work for them. I don't think most of them work to do anything at all. You're not going to work for a living for somebody else, then work for yourself. You know, go ahead and till your land. I mean, we don't have a lot of land to till here, but we're tilling it for our own needs and to survive. Although we have extra eggs and we give them away once in a while when we have some. You know, that's what we should do if we can help somebody. You know, people today, yeah, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and not even that. Something that bothered me this morning, I was on my way to work, and there's a place called the Good Shepherd, and it's one of those food pantry, thrift shop type places, and give away clothes. And we've donated that to that place previously a few times. I'm not saying that to brag that, oh, we donate. I'm just saying it in context of the conversation. So they seem like decent people in there, and they help people, and it's free clothing and free food for those who come in. And so we asked the qualifications one time of because I thought about donating my time there at one point. My wife did as well, of helping to hand out food, because you can. It's one of those things where you drive up and you, I don't know, there's this line, you're on the side of the road, you drive up, and there's these tables and they give food and stuff like that. So we're sitting, we thought about, hey, maybe we'll volunteer to do that and we'll work there. We didn't end up doing it, but and we asked qualifications of the people who are coming for the food, and they said, well, they got to have some sort of card, I forget what it is, that prove that they're on assistance or whatever. I'm just blessed that I'm doing something I enjoy. That is important. I now do something I kind of enjoy, which is weird. The job I have is not a job everybody want to do. It's not a fancy job, but anyways, I'm just a forklift operator. That's what I do. I unload trucks, I load trucks, I sort stuff. That's just what I do, and I enjoy it. So I was driving by the vehicles, and I saw some vehicles that were junky cars, but I saw some really nice vehicles, and it kind of bothered me a little bit. Not because their car was nicer or anything like that. I'm like, if they have that nice vehicle, and we know that they're in debt on that because they're probably paying monthly for it, where do they work and why are they on assistance? So some people say, well, listen, some people work and they can barely make ends meet and they need assistance. Agreed. I do know that exists. Absolutely. I went through that with my mother. Same thing with the assistance with her. When my father and my mother split when I was a kid, she did go to Salvation Army when I was a kid. And hey, I didn't work for Salvation Army because in my heart, I had kind of a thing for Salvation Army because my mom went there when I was a kid. That's where we got our clothes. See, that's how rich we were growing up. And I remember standing in the welfare line or whatever you want to call it for cheese. Now, a hand up, not a handout. Yeah. Amen. And I remember, I don't know if they do it anymore. I don't even know if it's a Northeastern thing, but I think it's pretty much welfare everywhere. You get a block of cheese. It's a rectangle, cardboard rectangle. You pull it off. And if you were like the first, it was like a giveaway almost. When you're the first 5 or 10 customers, I don't know how many, you would sometimes, they'd give you a free cheese slicer that they had, and they would hand those out if they had some. And so I remember that. And my mother, again, shot the Salvation Army. But it bothered me, these vehicles that were out there that, not because they're fancy and I didn't have the newest Ford Broncos out there, they don't need. And to me, and yes, I'm probably judging before I know their circumstances, and I always tell people not to. And I feel, who else could have used that more than them in that moment? I mean, sell your car. You got a brand new Ford Bronco. Sell that thing. Sell it. Sell it. Part of the current problem is banks were handing out loans like hotcakes during the pandemic. No credit checks, no proof of income. Yeah, true. That, yeah, I definitely am aware of that. I've seen a lot of that. Remember the stimulus checks when they were coming. What bothered me about that was I didn't want it. Me and my wife, neither one of us, we have been extremely blessed the last 7 years. My wife and I, in our own separate lives growing up, went through a lot, and I still think my wife went through more than I did. She had a very rough upbringing, but we didn't need it and we didn't want it, but we were forced to take it. And that bothered me. I think people should have been able to decline. And I do know of other so-called Christians who had no problem with taking money from the government. And for me, and I know saying so-called is not the best way of saying it, but I just don't think born-again Christians should be taking handouts from the government. I'm sorry. And let's go back to what we were talking about before about the way it used to be. It used to be your neighbors did help you out. For real, they would help you out. they'd got you back. Um, and sometimes they weren't asking you, they didn't care about your ethnicity all the time. Someone needed something, they try to do what they can. But that's gone. And living here in the South now, and I've been in Tennessee probably going on, I'm going to say about 3 years now, roughly 3 years. I had a romanticized view of the South, of everything I understood or had learned or been told or seen or TV or movies or other people, of how important the kin were and how important the neighbor was. And I will be honest with you, I don't see that. I see, and we can probably blame all the Northerners that are coming here. Brother Christopher is definitely going to blame the Northerners, and I think he is absolutely correct. Well, I'll say he's 98% correct. There's a couple of few people who come here, good people, but I don't see kin taking care of kin anymore. It's no longer a regional thing of not caring about your elders. It's nationwide. And I think that plays into as well of not respecting your elders in the biblical sense as well. Both don't care anymore. Within the church system, the elders are pushed off to the side. And in the secular world out here, the elders are pushed off to the side. We no longer care about their wisdom or what they may bring to the table. We care about what we can get now, what works for us now. And it's unfortunate. I wish I got to talk to more older people. I've said this before, I wish my wife's father was still alive. He was a child in Italy under Mussolini during World War II. And I thought, what a fascinating background that could have been. I would have loved to have heard his stories of growing up then, because it would have been a different view from, I don't want to say what we've been fed propaganda, but usually people who are in something or been involved with something know more than somebody else who just talks about it. I romanticized moving more north out into the country. It's definitely better than Massachusetts, yeah, but not exactly what I romanticized. New Hampshire's got some liberals up there. Vermont, New Hampshire's got good, solid people up there, depending on what towns you're in. I wouldn't consider Nashua a good place, or Derry. I don't think that, or Manchester. But there's some outlying towns out there that are good. Vermont is a little weird to me. They're known for weird stuff up Vermont. Maine is beautiful. It's real nice certain area, but there's a lot of wacky people up there too, and a lot of nuts. I think it depends on how one is raised and what values they're brought up with. I would tend to agree with you in most cases. I'm going to only use one example, and one example doesn't mean it could be the exception and not the norm. And to I don't want to say push back on that, because I'm not really push back on it. When I was delivering oxygen tanks, I used to deliver oxygen tanks to people's houses and set up their concentrators so they could breathe and stuff like that. I was at one. I mean, clearly they got Bible stuff everywhere, and Bible on the table and everything like that, and they were born again Christians and stuff like that. And on the second, I think, I'm pretty sure it was the second trip, could have been the third trip that I made there, they try to raise their kids right, but they're all a bunch of bums. They were brought to church every Sunday, but that's how I feel about that. Ringe is nice. Yeah, it is. Very quiet. No one bothers us here. Just do me a favor. Don't drive through Winchendon on your way to Ringe, New Hampshire. Stay out of Winchendon as much as possible. I was raised primarily by my grandparents. They taught me the fundamental rule to obey the Bible and take care of your family. Yeah. And some of us forget it along the way. And I think some come back to it. I know I grew up I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so I didn't grow up in the best church, but at least there was the understanding of the Bible and God. But they taught many, many other errors. A lot of errors. A lot of errors. Thankfully, none of that stuff's ever stuck with me. I think the only thing that stuck with me out of Pentecostalism is pre-trib. I'm a pre-trib guy, so it's probably the only teaching I can say that I still retain to this day, because the Bible, in my opinion, says so. The King James Bible. I work with a guy from Winchendon. He just had motorcycles stolen from him. Yeah, I got stories about Winchendon, let me tell you. But Winchendon is weird. So back in the day, around 5 o'clock, weird, all the unwed pregnant mothers would come out like cockroaches. It was the weirdest thing. It'd be nothing. If you go downtown Winchendon, bizarre. It was just a very strange situation. They were just popping up out of nowhere. I remember going up to Winchendon to help somebody, my sister actually, because she was being abused by her boyfriend at the time. So I was heading up there and to take care of that situation, or try to take care of that situation. The cops had showed up and they blamed me for my sister getting beat because I shouldn't have gotten involved. That's Winchendon Police Department back then. I don't know what they are now, and it wasn't just one sergeant or anything like that. That was the department at that time. That's how they were. So I'm not a big fan of Winchendon. I will drive around Winchendon, but thankfully I don't have to be in Winchendon anymore, so I don't have to go up in that area. So I'm happy for that. The thing about what I understand from Pentecostals and their pre-trib, you better be standing in that church building when the rapture begins. Yeah, I've heard that. That's not how I've ever took the teaching on that, and I'm not defending Pentecostals at all. They did teach the fact that you need to be found right. So you better be not backslidden at that moment. You better be right with God at the very moment, and you can be raptured anywhere, and it doesn't have to be in the building. I mean, that's what I believe anyways, but that's what my particular branch of Assemblies of God that gets taught. That, like I said, that is the only thing that I ever kept from that, or the only good thing out of that I've ever held on to. Certainly was not the music, that's for sure. I mean the rock and roll CCM music. I don't listen to that stuff. Because remember, when I was there, I was into bands like Petra. Striper was also a band at that time. Well, I think they were more late 80s than they were mid 80s. Petra was a big thing. Trying to think of the rock groups that time. I think White Cross might have been one or something like that. I can't remember all the band's names. But Striper, very much like Amy Grant, they used Christianity to get into the music business. Amy Grant could not get a record contract. Striper had some trouble too until they turned Christian. Striper actually opened up for Motley Crue in the early 80s out on, I think it's called Hollywood Boulevard or something like that, some rock club out there. So that should automatically tell you right there. My father was telling me about a guy who brought his kids to a Striper concert, and he says that when they were playing guitar. I mean, I don't know if he actually saw. I'm just saying what he said. What he said he saw were demonic spirits coming off their guitars. I could buy it. I could buy that. Katy Perry did as well. I don't know much about her. So she's like a pop star or something like that, but didn't she get mocked or something for going up in space or something? I don't know. Brother David, I grew up in Seacoast Church. I no longer go. My sister does. I believe Brandon Lake came. Dude, I have no idea who Brandon Lake is, and Seacoast Church. Seacoast Church. I would hope it's on the Seacoast. Brandon Lake. I have no idea who that is. Let me see if I can look up Brandon Lake. I have a playlist. Yeah, go to Brother Calvin's channel. Maybe I can try to link that channel here. I'll link it in there. Brother Calvin's got some really cool, and I haven't listened to all of it yet. I feel like a bad guy because that David Barton one you sent me, I still didn't listen to that yet. But I do listen to some of the playlists that you have on there. He's got some really cool playlist. He's got an interesting guy on there, Brian Moonen. I'd never even heard of that guy, but interesting guy. He's got some good stuff there. Who was I looking up? Brandon Lake. I don't know who this is. Let's find out. Brandon Lake concert. Okay, so he's a musician of some sort. Let's see. Dallas, Texas. I don't know who he is. Christian worship. I don't see a picture of him anywhere. Oh, Bethel Music. Hey, there you go. That's yeah, well, there you go there. Let's see. I'll have to go visit Jim. We know someone who is great at exposing. Oh. Are you talking about Flint? I think that's who you might be talking about. I don't know if that's who you're referring to. What I'm gonna do here, let me go to my YouTube. I'm gonna pull up the link to that. If I can pull up the YouTube. Hey, come on, work. Yeah, Katy Perry is some weirdo. I missed that part where you said CCM. Sorry, brother David. I just want to go into Calvin's here. Find Calvin real quick here. I actually found Scroll Independent Ministries. He's interesting. I just saw that comment. Hold on, I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. Wait, where's Calvin? Am I blind? I have no idea. Calvin. Oh, there you are. I think copy link here. And boom. Hopefully that's in there. Yeah, he's got some really cool playlists on there. I haven't gone through them all yet. One I definitely won't even watch, and I'll tell you why I won't watch it, is Chris Pinto, because I've already seen all those. I have actually seen those, so I've watched those before. That was good stuff. Yeah, Flint. That's his bread and butter. Flint's bread and butter is exposing people. His favorite target is that Brian Denlinger guy. That's his favorite target for some odd reason. Well, what happens is he got scammed by him, and that's why. Or at least he feels like he's got scammed by him. And so I can't blame him. But I am not a Brian Denlinger fan, so I don't have to worry about that here. But I'm not really into exposing people myself. I mean, if someone asks me about somebody, and if I know who they are, if I've seen them, I'll give my opinion. I'll give my honest opinion. But I don't go out of my way, so to speak. But I have no problem with mentioning someone or somewhere. I always get people that annoy me, not annoy me, but people that don't make sense to me, that is pointless videos, are for a little while Justin Peterson. It's not hard to expose Kenneth Copeland, Joel Osteen, what's the other guy? Todd White and guys like that. It's not hard to expose them. They kind of expose themselves if you think about it. So I wish people, at least I'll give Flint credit. He goes after some people that aren't as well known, like the Brian Denlinger and some guy out in Boston. That's about it. That's the only reason I know that is because, well, I'm from Boston area. So I saw that. I was like, oh, who's this guy from Boston? But I never heard of him either. Yeah. I'm a brother Christopher. I'm drinking out my mason jar. I'm Southern, you know. But yeah. So So check out that playlist. That's where I'm going with that. And Brandon Lake is some musician. I don't know, but Bethel was a sign right there. Here's an interesting thing that Lauren Daigle, Lauren Daigle, the Lauren Daigle out of Stanley there, Andy Stanley's church, which we know Andy Stanley's a little off his rocker, but his brother is Charles Stanley. Oh, hold on. Ha! So you're aware of Mr. Denlinger, or apparently Dunslinger. He spent too much time in the woods of Maine. Yeah. There's some stuff there. I am not a fan. Again, what I will say positive. I try to stay positive, but he did a great job on the Catholic stuff. I thought he did a wonderful job on that. I thought he was right on the money because I had already done that study, and I was like, I ain't got much to disagree with. I thought he did a very good job on that. So I will give him good stuff for that. But one could make the argument that he is a hypocrite from what I've seen and from other people, not me. I don't go looking at his videos. So, there's some, you know who he is, so you know what's going on. I think Flint is at Flint Truth Ministries. I think that's his channel's name. He's very focused on him. And obviously he has a personal thing going on there. I never followed Brian Denlinger, so thankfully I've got no skin in the game, so he's never ripped me off or anything like that. So I don't even know the guy. So I'm not one of those guys who might speak badly about him and go, oh, you just because you got something about him and he doesn't like you or something like that. I'm like, don't know him. Never communicated with him. Like I said, I've watched some of his stuff, but yeah, I still have a few of his older videos on some playlists. Oh, no way. I'm just kidding. I haven't seen him, actually. I've not seen him on your playlist. I must have missed him or skipped him, I guess. But, yeah, I think he's, I don't know what you want to call him, backslidden, falling away, just he's not on the right path. There's some stuff there. And his proteges seem to be a little different as well. They seem to, I don't know, they're just, I got a problem with people building their ministries off of somebody else's ministries. And this is what I will say about Brian Denlinger. This is where I guess I'll be negative. And Brother Jorge knows me very well by this time. We've known each other for probably about 5 years, maybe, roughly that. I don't speak negatively too much about many people. I try not to get involved in that. I think it's more important to exhort people, to rebuke and reprove, sure, but exhort them as well and try to be positive and try to hope people will change. But here's a problem I will say about Brian Denlinger. Without Peter Ruckman, Brian Denlinger doesn't have a ministry. And why I say that is because I learned that after the fact. Now, I never heard of Peter Ruckman, and the first time mentioned it was on a Brian Denlinger video that I had seen once, and I was like, oh, I wonder who Peter Ruckman is. And I just, not a big deal. I forgot about it, and then I got back to it eventually. But because I never heard of the guy in my entire life, Peter Ruckman. Never heard of the guy. Never heard of him. So I looked at it. So it was a while before I even watched any of Peter Ruckman's videos. So I watched some Brian Denlinger stuff there for about a few months. I was pretty solid on watching his stuff. But things outside of his stuff on the Catholic, there were just things that were striking me as odd. Things you just get a feeling about somebody. Sometimes you overlook it, but something's eating at you and telling you something ain't right. And so something about the guy just seemed off about him. I think he was just a little weird. And people can be weird and still be accurate. There's nothing wrong with that. But as I saw Ruckman stuff after the fact, what Brian Denlinger for a long time did was regurgitate everything from Peter Ruckman. And that's where I got a problem with is we shouldn't be building our ministry off of someone else's ministry. I think that's a terrible thing. I mean, you can have someone who's an elder who's taught you well, and you're like, oh yeah, that's great, blah blah blah. But you usually have your own style, your own thing. But he tried too much and did a terrible job at it, I would think, at emulating Peter Ruckman. But then, from somebody else was telling me, it's that now he against Peter Ruckman and says Peter Ruckman's stupid or whatever, or is ignorant or blah blah blah, which I found interesting that you idolize the man, built your ministry off this man, and then suddenly he's an evil man. I think those things are really weird, and I think a lot of his proteges did the same thing. They took his stuff and built their ministries to sound like his ministry. Sometimes you can see it in there, and I think we have to not build. And that's why I don't normally watch many YouTube videos. For about a month, though, I got really heavily invested in watching some stuff, all the debate stuff. There's another gentleman, Nick Sayers. I think he does a good job on some of the stuff. I don't think I'll watch the debate he's coming up because I'm not for debates. I really don't believe Christians should be debating because it ends up just an argument and nobody's minds change. And I find it crosses a line where we're just debating and not defending the faith and not witnessing or evangelizing. We're just arguing. And I don't see the fruit of that, my personal opinion. So, well, this may sound odd, but it's nice to meet more elders. Yeah. Anytime you meet people, talk with people, but yeah, when you can meet elders and men who have been around the block, been there, done that type of thing. And again, it doesn't have to be someone who's sitting on the stage, on the pulpit, 3 seats down. It could be the Christian man right beside you who's been there for 40 years and has been through some things. I think we forget that we can learn from one another. We're too focused on that we feel that we can only learn from one source or one place, but indeed we can learn from each other. I think I have far less to offer than a lot of other people do. Yeah, I've been through a lot, but there are men who've been through a whole lot more than I have. I've had my ups and downs. I've had my past issues. I've had my problems. But somehow, as the saying goes, by the grace of God, here I am. I made my mistakes in the past, and I've slipped, I backslid, I messed things up. And I will say part of that, is my fault. But the other part, I would have to, unfortunately, blame on discipleship, the lack of discipleship. It was lacking. It's supposed to be discussion, not debate, but I'm going to tune in just to find out. Yeah, and I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Nick's a bad guy or anything for this. I just, so far, I have just never seen a debate with any fruit to really come out of it. I just haven't. And maybe I've just not. Maybe someone could say, well, Steve, you just haven't seen the right debate yet. You haven't seen the right one yet. And that's unfortunate. I think some people get into discussions, like you said, but then they turn into the debates and then it becomes arguments and nobody's really getting edified. They maybe learn some stuff, but nothing that's good. Yeah. By the grace of God, there go I. Amen. But I tell you, I don't think I'm going to watch it. I might, depending on if I have the time to do so. Actually, that's probably tomorrow night, which I don't think I will because Saturday night and Saturday night at my house is game night. The family, we sit at the kitchen table and we play fish, we play VC, we play Uno, So we hang out as a family and play stuff. We play Upwards, Boggle. I think it's kind of important to do so. So sometimes I get in there later than I want to because I'm doing research out here or transcribing something. But so I probably won't see that. Brother, Lord gave me a rough bunch of fellows to be a witness to at work. I keep asking the Lord to let me work for myself, but I think I'm stuck here for a while. Hey, and you could be stuck there for a while. And when you say stuck, you might be purposely stuck there for a while for a reason. Yes, it could be your own fault that you're there, but it could be that the Lord needs you there to do something. That is quite possible. I've questioned sometimes why God has got me in a place where I'm like, why am I here? This is not what. But out of that comes other things. So I remember being involved with that old time radio show, and I'm like, why am I involved in this? This is not something I want to be involved with. But well, actually, I would say I regretted it afterwards. And then I realized I shouldn't have regretted it because I learned some dark stuff out of that, and it was important for me to go through it and see the other side. And I won't mention his name right now. I'm not looking to, again, expose people, stuff like that. It's not my interest. But again, like I said, people ask me about it or I'll give my opinion. But we did have a little radio podcast, what do you want to call it, for a little bit. And I still remember the first time I ever saw one of his videos. I thought he was just a little weird and out there, but I'm like, oh, he's trying. He seems to be trying, but whatever. And he had reached out to me, and wanted to get involved and do something together and stuff like that. And I just had no interest and pretty kind about it. And then finally, I remember my wife saying, oh, my wife is always, she's the first one. She's always trying to look for the best in somebody. So I love her for that. She's better than I am at that. She's less skeptical than I am. But so I ended up getting involved with this person, and it turned out kind of how I thought it was going to go after a while. And if things happened that opened my eyes, going, man, this situation is messed up. But this was an anti-church building person, so this comes from the other side. Now, I grew up in the church, and obviously, like a lot of people, I left the church buildings because there's just so much corruption and hypocrisy and lies. So I got to dive right into the other side of it and to see what it was like on that side firsthand, and found in some cases they were just as hypocritical as the people they were calling hypocrites. So hypocrites can be found anywhere. But what I was going to say is we have met brothers and sisters out of that, and that's good because they had left it because they felt it was very cultish. It was a cult-like stuff going on, and the person in charge there, my opinion, is the wife behind the scenes, who shouldn't be in charge. But a lot of talk about how he was very nasty, talking down to people, and just not a good situation. So, but again, met a couple people out of there. So God put me in there for a reason, even though, as Brother Calvin would say, even though hindsight, I can see now why God had placed me in that place, in that situation. So it gave me a really in-depth view of that culture and that the people on that side of the aisle. And I find it fascinating that the church buildings and the anti-church buildings are almost saying the same things about each other. Very interesting. But we're all put in a situation where we don't realize we need to be in, and for whatever that may be and whatever outcome may come from that. Like the last job I had, I met this guy at a Baptist church down here, which I don't go to anymore. Checked it out. We went there for probably maybe 2 months, and then I left after that because their They're insane. I know who you're talking about. Sometimes I guess things play out to work out for good. Okay, so all right. You must have known me a lot longer than I knew. I didn't know you. So apparently you watched that old time radio show, huh? Or maybe you did. I don't know. Is that okay? Maybe you know who it is. But again, I'm not trying to mention his name to not because I'm scared of somebody. I just don't get into it much, but I just don't. I have no interest in that stuff, and those people will expose themselves as time goes on, um, and which from the emails and letters that we got, yeah, some crazy stuff there, but God had me there for a reason. He had to show me the situation over there. We both know about that. Okay. But and you'll call me crazy, and that's okay. But I actually, time to time, when it pops into my mind, I'll pray about him. Just a quick one, and just that he'll see the light one day, just like I would for Brian. Um, I wish no one to go to hell. You know, a lot of people are going, but it doesn't give me any satisfaction knowing that some people expose themselves over time and to be hypocrites or get caught in lies and have to now try to cover themselves. But I still pray. I pray that they would just fess up and just, I am more willing to forgive a man who's just honest and say, you know what? I lied to you. And I don't know why I lied to you. And you ask for forgiveness. And you're going to get it. So that's what we do. We're supposed to forgive. But unfortunately, people have too much pride. They're full of too much pride and arrogance, and they just can't do it. They can't apologize. It is beyond them to be able to do so, which fascinates me. I apologize for doing a stupid seatbelt video on my channel years ago. I don't know why. I did. It was dumb. I've talked about a lot of different things, but not all that I regret. But of course, we are to pray for everyone, even our enemies, after we've dusted our feet. Yeah. Amen. I have nothing to do with that person. I don't care to do anything with them. I don't watch their videos or anything like that. I don't care. I don't have that kind of time. Some people have all day to sit around and watch video after video after video. I don't. I get bothered by people who ask for money. Goes, how it's so hard to do videos and prepare for ministries and all this. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? I know guys who work their tails off and still do videos. They're out there, my supervisor is either a new Christian or a false convert and has bad fruit, but he seems to be trying and asking questions. Hey, take an inroad where you can get it. So if there's any small crack in the window or the window's up just a little bit, of the door is slightly open, I'm a little different. I'd probably kick the door in, but not all the time. You got to use discernment. But tell you what you can. I know my last boss, and you probably saw my video that I did about it, which I've actually forgiven him. I forgot to talk to another brother of mine in Christ about that situation, but I pray for people I don't like. I still don't want them to go to hell. Exactly. You watch some of these guys out there, and they're almost gleeful in the way that they expose people and are almost happy to do so. And I'm just like, man, no, that has got to, and that's okay. So I said this before, exposing someone, first of all, you better be right. You better be right. You better have the receipts, as the kids say today, but you better be right about what you're talking about, because to start going out there and doing those things, that's a very serious thing. And unfortunately, too many people take it very lightly. I'm just going to go on rebuke today. What? No. There's a level, there's a way we're doing this. We're doing this. It's the last thing we want to do. We'd want to have to do that. We're not, in my opinion, a true born-again Christian is not excited or just looking to try to expose somebody. The saddest day in anybody's life if they've ever have to do that to a brother. That's an awful day. It's an awful day, and you don't want to be in that situation. He's older, so I don't feel very comfortable rebuking him. Well, you don't have to. You can witness to him without rebuking him, and you can bring up things. I think without rebuking him. But he told me I could. He told you could rebuke him. Okay. But so my last boss, and if you all saw the video, ESV there, the ESV boss, he ended up firing me, and he ended up lying about what happened. So, and if you saw the video, you saw. If you didn't, you didn't. And he claims to be a Christian, born-again Christian. He goes to a Baptist church, a mega Baptist church. Turns out that church, I found out through my wife, who had a friend from a homeschool, one of the homeschool mothers there. She was going there for a brief time, and she went there and realized that they use the ESV, so they didn't go again. So I'm like, okay, here's a Baptist mega church using the ESV. There's another, again, red flag. So we're having a conversation, and the girl at the desk was kind of rude to me in front of a person, a customer on the street that came off, or a customer that was paying their bill or something, or I don't know what they were doing. But she was very rude. And I said, don't talk to me like that again, please. And then he was upset about it. And because she said to him, oh, I guess I'm going to have to show you how to do paperwork. I said, okay, please don't talk to me like that again. But I was told it was not a big deal, but okay, not a problem. So I go out, and I'm talking to one of the other drivers. I say, hey, listen, apparently I put in the wrong spot. I didn't realize, so I'll make sure I know next time. Can't do that. Now he comes out, and he's talking about how I'm complaining, and he starts yelling at me. This is how we do it. This is how you're supposed to write. And he's going on and on about this whole thing. And I'm like, man, oh, man. So I'm agreeing with him. Okay, my mistake. All right, my mistake. And he keeps going on and on. And I don't know. I remember talking to him, and then this is when I put my hands on him. I put my hand on kind of like right about here, and I said, listen, like as Matthew teaches us, Matthew chapter 18, we go to the brother and we talk about it. Do you find that you're having issues, or there's something I'm doing that I don't know about? You need to come tell me. So he wrote me up for poking him. Now, first he told me that I pushed him to my face. He said, you pushed me. I'm like, I never pushed you. He goes, yes, you did. You're a liar. You pushed me. I'm like, I never pushed you at all. And I'm like, you put hands on me. I'm like, I didn't put hands on you. And then in my write-up, he said, I poked him. I'm like, okay, what am I? The hands on, push, poke. What are you doing here? And then I had to think about it afterwards. And I realized, wait a second. When I was talking about Matthew 18, I was touching him. You think there were some evil spirits inside this man? I do. And I think he's a false convert. I don't think he's saved at all. But I was also, he's been giving me attitude more and more over the last few months at that point, because I've been talking more and more about the Bible and King James to that girl and another person in there. So he's getting offended. And then I did say to him, because she runs him like crazy, I says, listen, she may run you, but she don't run me. And that offended him because, well, his wife runs him and that girl in the office runs him. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. First one. He's getting into philosophy like meditation and third eye stuff. Yikes! I'd like to know who he watches as a preacher or a pastor, which I consider witchcraft. Yep, certainly is. Scared to death. That man was in fear for his life. Yeah. Well, you got fired by an ESV guy. Yeah. Because I made one video, and then it dawned on me after I made the video. I'm like, ain't that funny? One of the things I was pushing back on him a lot was the ESV, and he's an ESV guy, and I got fired by the ESV guy. I mean, not a big. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I have another job and I make more money, so it's not a big deal. When I say make more money, I don't mean that I always have to make sure I say that. I don't mean that in a braggadocious way, like, oh, I make more money. I have a better situation, a better job, and better location, and everything is good. But it's kind of interesting. I'm always, because I don't hide. And let me tell you another story about this gentleman. He's a very, in my opinion, he's a microcosm of a lot of false Christians out there, false converts. Because I go to a coin store. I like coins. I buy a little of this, a little of that. I bring one of my boys who's into coins as well. He likes to get a Mercury dime every week. He works hard all week, does chickens, lawns, whatever it is, and earns a little bit of money. So he gets a few dollars a week, and he buys a Mercury dime. But anyway, so I'm talking to the coin guy, because the coin guy actually knows, because he learned about where I work. He goes, oh, do you know such and such? I'm like, yeah, I know who he is. He's my boss. He goes, oh. And so we were talking for a long time, and I said, how long have you known him? He goes, oh, I've known him way back when his father and at the Sweetwater thrift market, the Sweetwater flea market. I've known him for years. I'm like, oh. And I went the whole thing about, I just think he's, a false Christian, the way he did. And then he says to me, he goes, he's a Christian? I'm like, and this is what bothers me, is so many people call themselves Christians and you would never know they were. There's no light. There's no light that shines. They are not a beacon on any hill, I'll tell you that. They cover it up. They hide their light under that bushel. They are hiding. If a man you known, okay, who says they're a Christian or a woman for 20 years or for years and years, but you never know that aspect of it. My coin dealer knew I was a Christian probably the third time I went in there. Probably the third time, because I don't hide it. I don't shy about it. You know what I mean? In fact, he learned because it's just in the strip mall that he has a shop, and there's a little Calvary Chapel, it's called. It's like a little church. Probably, my guess is a non-denominational church or whatever. And that's why, it came up about the fact that I think he's not legit as a Christian. I'm sitting here assuming he knows he goes to church, but I'm like, nope, not at all. And sometimes we have to hold ourselves in a way that people know that we're different. And we can't shy away from it. We just can't. There has to be something about you that they say, man, that guy's different. What's going on with that guy? Why does he handle things so well? But unfortunately, we hide it too often. And maybe not everybody is going to be good at opening their big mouths and saying something. Again, I'll just pretend that this is a blessing. I have a big mouth, and I have no problem with sharing anything in my faith. And it's not a shame. Not a shame. I don't preach at work, but I can't hide myself. Right. I'm not preaching at work. This girl was talking about, we're in the South in the Bible Belt, so everybody in the Bible Belt's a Christian. Not everybody is. There's a lot of people are. I'm just saying not everybody is. That's all. But, and that's why, and I was correcting her on some stuff, and she was following some guy out of Texas, Wolcott, I think his name is Andrew Womack. Andrew Womack. He's got some weird new age stuff kind of mixed into his weird nonsense. He's also a Kenneth Copeland guy as well. Good friends with Kenneth Copeland. Red flag. But yeah. And I was just telling, well, that's a little off on that one. And then she was doing some walk at her Baptist church, her ESV. See, it's hard to consider I know that somebody calls the Baptist Catholics. I get it, but they seem to be the ESV crowd, because this particular Baptist church she goes to is not a King James Baptist, that's for sure. They also are ESV. Sometimes they'll use KJV. They're one of those churches that kind of flips back and forth. And they did what's called an Emmaus walk. And the Emmaus walk was created by Catholics. So, yeah, stuff like that. Again, nobody looks into things or origins of things and tries to understand them. But, oh, well, but again, these things happen. I get put into situations, a lot of us do, we get put into situations where we may not think it's the best place to be, and we question, why am I here? Well, because we do not see the large quilt. I'll use quilt. My wife makes quilts. So the piece of fabric down at this end that she works on this square, it doesn't know what's going on with this square. This square knows nothing about this square. So we don't see everything. We see a very tiny little part. God sees the bigger picture of things. So it's a long way of answering that, David. But continue to be open to dialogue and discussion. You know this person better than I do, so it's important to use discernment into when to speak and when not to speak. And before you start each day praying and say, Lord, you lead me. Let the Holy Spirit lead you that day, whether when to speak and when not to speak. Because if we rely on our own, we're in trouble. Lean not on thine own understanding. Can't do that. That is majorly important. Don't rely on yourself in that situation, and don't answer quick either, because you don't want to jump the gun on something. Think it through. Small prayer in your little head. Just go, little head. I'm not saying you got a little head. Hey, he's got a tiny little skull. Say, hey, think about it, Lord. I need you right now. Can you just give me any little thing you can? More often than not, something's gonna happen. Something will happen. That's how I work things. Sometimes I'll use this for example. Oh wow, I'll get tired. Long day. Got a lot to do tomorrow. I'll do the same thing with this live stream. Tonight there happened to be no topic for this live stream. But sometimes there is. But I don't rush it. I let the week go. Sometimes I know on Monday, suddenly the Lord will just, bam, this is what I'm doing. All of a sudden, just come, bam, this is, okay, all right. I think that's what I want to talk about this week. Sometimes I might know Monday, I might know Thursday, I might know Friday the topic. But tonight, I had nothing. I had nothing else to talk about. But that's okay, because we're talking about a bunch of other stuff. And that's why he gave me nothing. He's like, I already got stuff planned. I already got some stuff planned tonight. So be it. Okay. And Brother Jorge's on the younger side too. But let me ask you. So Brother Jorge, Brother David, and I don't know if this for certain, but maybe you're around the same age grouping. What is it that your generation you think seeks the most? Because I think they are more apt to fall for a version of anti-establishment, somebody who looks like they're off the path, the beaten path, so to speak, that play a part, that look a certain way, that want to be different. I've often wondered that, because I find throughout history, really, especially even religious history as well, they fall for two things. Well, something's going to be happening pretty soon. I'll tell you what it is in a second. They tend to fall for someone who's charismatic. Now, charismatic doesn't mean it has to be somebody in the Pentecostal charismatic realm. It could be charismatic Catholics, charismatic Pentecostal, charismatic non-denominational, charismatic Baptist.
But a charismatic person isn't always jumping up and down stage. Someone who looks like, yeah, I want to be like that guy. I want to live on the mountain. I want to live in the woods. I want to be away from it all. But it seems like there's always an anti-establishment view. It seems like, and I'm going to speak for myself for 2 seconds. When I was younger, I thought the old people weren't geniuses. I was like, well, they're doing old, and I'm talking about church people. I mean, that's old school suit and ties and just standing around and reading the Bible. And why don't they get a little more pep in this step and this and that? Always criticizing. I think to a certain degree that happens every generation, but there's something about the cultish behavior generation. My generation and younger, I think there's a lack of leadership of good, strong men. I don't think a lot of young have leadership. Yes. But leadership is an interesting term because sometimes we define it a certain way. We define strong men a certain way. There's what I like to call the pastor. Man, my throat's been messed up. I've been dealing with dust all day long. We have this almost a secular version of what a strong leadership should be. Like our friend there, you know who I'm talking about, has this whole Wyatt Earp looking thing going. Another one looks like he's Mr. Mountain Man. And they weren't always that dressed that way, though. At some point in time, they changed their persona. They changed their style of dress to look a certain way. Pastor persona. Which I think I would, and I've got nothing wrong with anybody dressing the way they dress. You want to dress in a suit. Like I'm fine with suits. If I got to wear a suit, I got to wear a suit. I ain't got no problem with it. I just don't, you won't generally ever see me in a suit. You know, I spent a long time wearing a suit and tie and jacket. But some people enjoy it, not because they feel they have to. They just like wearing a suit. All right, let them wear a suit then. Now, I think it's different if there's an obligation or if they're told that they have to. It's a different ballgame. But people create this visual effect that they think is going to hit the demographics. They're salesmen. They act a certain way, talk a certain way, but they don't actually are not like that in real life. I think it's actions that matter. I think it's a way you speak. I think it's I try to lead by example. Yes, I tell the kids at work when they're around me, don't take shortcuts. It's going to be hard and difficult. Take your time and measure everything and cut that piece as one. Yeah. Don't hack it up and take shortcuts. I've been known to do that. I messed up that board up there, and I knew I did it wrong, and I was in a hurry. Sometimes they don't know, and I show them it's possible. Yeah. And that's good for the workplace, by the way. And that's important to show integrity, dignity, maturity on the job, being at work every day, holding yourself a certain way. But I'm also referring to people online who I believe there's infiltrators in the King James realm. I guess I qualify as a King James onlyist. I think anyone who reads the King James is automatically a King James onlyist, which is fine. I could care less. I'm fine with being called a King James onlyist. I don't have an issue with that. But we have people in the ranks who are a distraction. I think they're leading people off the wrong way and down the wrong path. And I think what they do is they they lead mostly younger people, down these paths with these weird ideas. You asked a hard question. I don't really know what our generation needs. Well, other than the obvious, every generation needs God. We know that salvation is of the utmost importance at that point. So to answer that would be one thing your generation, my generation, all generations need. But what I see is people taking advantage of people looking for something different from the churches, the church establishment building. They give this view, and I don't go to church. I am in no church building. I go to none. So one can't say I got skin in the game. I'm defending the church buildings. I don't go to one. I currently don't go to one. If I find a local small, tiny fellowship, I'm there. After watching Dr. George Antonio's last two streams today, I've become wary. I don't know why yet, but never saying I don't know when asked is one. Another is not rebuking. Yeah, so if you see my comment, and I think I said about the same thing, I wrote a comment. I came across him not too long ago, maybe a few weeks ago, and I don't know why. I think I saw a short by him. It said the KJV is pro-Jesuit, and so I'm like, okay. I didn't know he was a King James person, or claims to be one, anyways. So I'm like, all right, let me check this. I'm curious about this comment so I looked into it, and I'm like, he's a King James guy. So I got on his channel. I might have watched one video. I don't know what it was. I hit the subscribe button and was meaning to go back to watch other stuff. I didn't. I forgot. And I saw a live stream once. So I was like, oh, I'll watch the live stream. But yeah. And he had another guy on there who just was all angry. He was another King James guy yelling and screaming and da-da-da. And I'm like, what is going on? There's no civil dialogue. Again, a rebuke has to happen. It happens. I'm fine. I'm fine by that. I'm fine if a rebuke has to happen. But it was kind of odd. I was disappointed that he didn't. He let someone swore, and even this hardcore. There was a hardcore King James guy, who also swore. And so to me, I think I consider certain languages swear words more than somebody else would. Maybe I'm harsher about things. I don't know. But although I was rebuked and corrected on my own live stream one time, and he was right. I used the word, and I'm going to say it for the context. I use the word dang and darn, and those two words are a replacement of another word. So, I took that very deeply into consideration. I was not offended by it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, it is a replacement swear word. I see the other comments. Let me get to it in 1 second. But he didn't rebuke them at all, and I thought that was disappointing. And because I think you are, I think you are needing that. But there's anger with there's no righteous anger. It's just anger. Just random anger with nothing but behind it or back it up. They either need a bottle, pillow, and blanket, or be told to man up. I'm probably harsh sometimes. My boss has made it. No, I have to keep an eye on these kids. Yeah, I think I made a video a while back. Pull up your big boy pants, I think it was called, something like that. He's also a former Jesuit by admission. Oh, is he really? I know he mentioned in the last live stream that he's a Calvinist or what? He was a Calvinist briefly or something like that. So he knows about Calvinism because he was one for a couple of years. They work hard, so I can't complain. But when they mess up, it's my fault. So you're saying our generation needs civil dialogue? No, I think yes, and I'll also go back to what Jorge said. They need to man up as well sometimes. But there's discernment is a big thing I see missing. There's a time to be
soft and time to be harsh. And sometimes it's not always the same time frame. But I think another thing is everybody's got to figure it out. So we have YouTube now, right? So we don't need the Bible. We'll just go watch somebody. I know that we're all talking here, but I would expect no one to take my word for what the Bible says. You know what I mean? And that's not, I have no problem with someone fact checking me and going to the Bible and say, hey, this is what the King James says. You said it differently. I'm like, I did? Oh. If I don't line up, I don't line up. But that being said, discernment is a big deal. I got a study coming up, I think, on that one. But we're just too, man, we're wishy-washy. We don't stand. We're too afraid to speak. God's got your back. God has your back. We keep having this fear of being honest. I lost my job. I have a wife and I have kids. Well, that's irresponsible. No, what would be irresponsible of me is to not be honest, to not see someone who's disillusioned, being lied to, and being sent straight to hell. To me, that's a bad thing. So I speak. I try to speak in a way that is civil. And if I have to raise my voice at times, then so be it. Depends on the moment, depends on the time, depends on the situation. I had this conversation with somebody a while ago. Not every situation is the same. And that's important. That's hugely important. And I lost my job. But I stood for what was right. I had never lost faith. Well, I would say the fourth week, I was almost out of work for a month. And I was like, okay, all right, God, it's been a month now. So if we could just get something, that'd be pretty cool. And which we did. My father, I think there was another reason too, is my father had a few appointments that month. He just took a nosedive he's now on hospice. But the moment he went on hospice, that afternoon, I got a call from an interview and got hired. God had my back. I had no worries. Have faith. I keep on drifting off to different areas. I keep reading the comments and going different direction here. I try to keep it 100% respectful, especially with someone older than me. But when these kids don't listen, I explain to them that's not what I want to see because that's not what my boss wants to see. Yeah, and that's another thing that's disappeared is work ethic. That's why I've always said I won't follow or watch a guy on YouTube or even anywhere else that doesn't work for a living, who has no idea how to work for a living. I don't mean a guy who's 60 and has already worked 40 years of life and he's taking early retirement. Yeah, I got no problem with that. Not at all. Even at 55, you can be in law enforcement for 30 years. At the age of 25, 55, you can retire, I believe, full pension. So I don't have a problem with that either. I don't have a problem with them being in full-time ministry, and no big deals there. But when I'm seeing 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds not having any jobs because they've been called to have a ministry and then ask you to support them, I got a problem with guys who've never seen a thing and want to all of a sudden tell other people how to live life. That becomes a problem. I think a lot of Christians don't or won't speak up for the fear of being ostracized, be it in the workplace or somewhere else, but might be wrong. Yeah, no, I get that. People don't want to be that guy. Totally understand that. Again, it's hard sometimes to call it a blessing, but I've always been an outsider, so to speak. I'm always going against the authority, so to speak.
I don't care what people think of me. Never have. So that's why I probably don't have a lot of subscribers. I'm not saying that's why, but I don't care about, and please don't misunderstand me. I love you guys, I do, but I don't worry myself about that because I don't depend on anybody to pay my bills except for me. I don't, I'm not asking for donations to buy so I can buy a new house or anything like that, or buy land or support my new kid coming up and stuff like that. No, nope, it's not going to happen. Not, it's just can't. I won't do it. So I'll speak up. I'll always speak up. Now my father being a Pentecostal, one of the things I will say that I got from him was standing your ground. Basically, never. If you're right, you're right. Don't back down. Now, that can cross the line because he's a very stubborn man. So, he takes to a whole new level. But he always just it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I remember talking on the porch about that situation. Told him, "Yeah, I got fired." And I told him what happened, and he said to me, he goes, "You were right. You were in the right. So you didn't do anything wrong." I'm like, there you go. But never back down from things. Don't be afraid of people. Don't be, because at the end of the day, there is only one that you should fear. It's your wife. No, I'm just kidding. That was a marriage joke. Come on. I had to throw one in there for a second. We should be fearing God. We shouldn't be worried. If we're too afraid to speak up sometimes, and I don't want anybody to go and get fired, but you got to do, at the end of the day, you have to do what's right. I would pray about it, obviously. Don't be reactionary too much. I think a lot. I already did that one. I'm sorry. The downside to my position is everything is my fault. Yeah. Well, you're in charge, so it comes down to you, buddy. I don't throw anyone under the boss. I just deal with the blow. Under the bus is what you're probably trying to say. I just deal with the blow. I can take it. Yeah, sometimes that's what happens. That's another idea of leadership too. You take the grind. You don't complain. Yeah, after a while, people say, "Wow, he took the blame for us. He took the fall for us again." You might build character in them going, "Man, we got to not let him take the." He never complains. He takes the fall. That ain't right, guys. We got to step up. Under the bus. Yeah. I totally understand. I truly do not care what people think about me either. Yeah, and I don't mean it in a negative way. People are like, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'll just do whatever I want. And that's not what I mean. I'm not going to worry too much about these things. I think, like, people talk about my behind my back. But okay, I don't care. I've had people tell me about things, and I'm as if I'm going to care too much, or that I'm going to go off the handle, get upset about it. There's only been one time that I've attacked somebody. That's because they attacked my wife, and that verbally, and that's that's where you cross the line. That's my wife isn't on videos. My wife's not in any of my videos, so to me that's off limits. Unless you want to put your wife on video, then she's on limits. And I'll say it's about Obama. I backed Obama a while ago, and hold on one second before everybody shuts off their screen. The news media was going after the kids and making comments about their children. Well, their children were underage at that time, and I was even like, no, you leave the kids out of it. This is not about children. Now they might grow up to be a bunch of scumbags. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, but they're kids, man. You leave them out of it. You don't go. They're alive. Now you go after his wife Michelle because she's a public figure and da. So that's you put yourself out there. That's why I don't believe Christian men should be putting their wives out there, because you can't complain when people start saying something and you want to get all offended or say something. Why? You put them out there. You put them in the scope. So I don't know what to tell you. Now, I don't go to attacking people's wives, so I don't really, that's not my thing. But, generally, when women are involved in that, and some of these guys in the KJV realm, They're running the show. They're running the show. Now, someone will say, well, Brother Jorge knows my wife very well. Well, not very well. I mean, he knows her. He's actually been to our home. I don't know if I should say that or not, if I'm allowed to say that, but Brother Jorge has been in our home when we used to live up northeast. We invited him over for Thanksgiving. So he knows kind of just in that meeting that, she's a godly woman. The way she holds herself, carries herself. But she won't be on screen. And she doesn't want to because she knows that she's not supposed to be. As a King James woman, she knows that that's not her place. Her place is not to be out there preaching on the screen and stuff like that. The desire she does have, though, is she likes to sew. She makes baby blankets that we donate and like Bible sleeves, book sleeve things. To be honest, all the stuff I don't really know what she makes, but she does a great job. Please don't think I say that trying to be proud. It's just the way we have to stand before and answer to God, not man for our words and action in his life. I wasn't thinking you were being proud at all. I'm just in a negative way at all. Not at all. But we have to stand and we have to be firm and we can't be moved. Unfortunately, too many people are swaying with the breeze, and they like to appease or they're going after a certain demographic. I mean, I guess the only demographic I'd be going after would be the King James, but even the lost. I have people who've been on here who are lost people and make their little comments. I've never blocked them, never banned them, never excommunicated them. Unless they're going to go full on swear words. And I've got, at that point, I've got to say something. But I don't mind being attacked. I don't have a problem with it. I don't at all. You want to attack me, that's fine. Because we should expect it. And we should be prepared for it. We should have no issues with it and get our little feelings hurt. We can't do that. Now, we'll go just to briefly talk about those other two people that some of you guys know. Yeah, they block people. They excommunicate them. If they don't like their comments, they delete them. What kind of man is that? It's not real men. Sorry. They put on a show. They put on a front. And some are just delusional, unfortunately. They follow strange people. I don't mean just Peter Ruckman or all the, what do you call them, Ruckmanites? I'm not a Ruckmanite. I know of Peter Ruckman. I've learned of him more in the recent years. I've said that before. And I'm always thankful. I am always thankful because he has left a very big mark. You can call it good, you can call it bad, you can call it what you want, but he's left an indelible mark on the KJV onlyism and stuff like that. But I count myself thankful every day that I became a King James person, the King James onlyist, if you will, before I ever knew who he was or any of these people were. The Gail Riplinger, Peter Ruckman, Sam Gipp is the other guy. Gail Riplinger, I've never watched or heard. Yep, I'm gonna get that one real quick. Yep, there's an old saying. I'm sorry, that OLDE is actually 1611 King James, not the modern King James version. I don't understand how to speak that. That's very archaic, and I'm just kidding. I'm just making a joke. There's an old saying. Sometimes, by the way, I do write old in. I just throw it in there to see if anybody catches it. If you can't take it, don't dish it out. Yeah, if you can't take it, don't deal it. And that's the truth. If you're going to be out there and you want to start slinging, then you should be able to take that back. And if you can't, then you're not a real man of God. Sorry, I could be wrong. Maybe you're just backslidden, but man, if you can't take it and you got to ban people and delete people and whine and cry, well, then Sorry. Then again, it's different if someone's in there swearing and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that type of stuff and cursing and so forth, or putting pornography or something on your live stream. Or yeah, obviously it's different. Clearly, obviously, but yeah, I just think people get into this hoping to make a name for themselves because they feel like they don't have anything. I came to YouTube late, probably what? 6 years ago, maybe. I think 6 years. Wasn't even into YouTube. Knew nothing about YouTube. Although I had thought about YouTube before I went to where I went, because I was just going to say, I shouldn't say I never thought of YouTube. YouTube existed. I didn't pay much attention to it, but I thought about the fact that maybe I should make a channel and do, historical stuff and things that people don't know and stuff like that. And I thought about it back then, but I never did anything. And I'm glad I didn't, because it wasn't the time to do it. I'm like, I don't have time to do that. I'm raising a family. I got family. I got work. I got a job. I got time for that. And so 6 years ago is when I came on, and I thought I was going to just talk about a couple of simple things, and just from originally I called this channel, and I think the only one who would remember this would be Brother Jorge. It was called Everyday Man of God Ministries. That's what it was called. And then I thought to myself, it's very bragocious. It's very selfish. I don't know what the word I'm looking for, the best way to say it, of calling myself a ministry. Because we're all supposed to, all men are supposed to be, all Christian men are supposed to be ministering to people in some sort of way, and sharing the gospel. So I felt really, after a while, I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like that's very self-involved. So then I ended up changing the name of it to the BAC Network. That's what I originally called it. But then I had people asking me what the BAC stood for. And it stands for Born Again Christian. So then I changed it to Born Again Christian Network. So, because that goes along with my theory of believing that we should have a network. Born Again Christians should have a network around the country, around the world, or whatever. I do believe in that. So that's kind of why I went with that name. But I couldn't think of anything back then. And I was trying to take a perspective of an everyday man, a Christian, just how do I deal with life every day? My point of view type of deal, and how I go about business. But then it evolved, obviously, not the Charles Darwin type of evolution, or the little birdies, but it evolved into another direction, and I did quick things, did things like that. But then I decided to, and I just, went in different directions, and here I am. I just got deeper and deeper where I never thought I'd be, and it evolved where I am now. I'm like, all right, well, God has a way of doing things. Let me tell you. Judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment you judge shall ye be judged, and with what measure ye meet shall it be measured to you again. Yeah, I have no problem with being judged. I think the problem is a lack of righteous judgment. People are like, oh, Bible says we should never judge others. You shouldn't be mean to people. I'm kind of speaking mockingly, and I acknowledge that, and I apologize, but if you can't handle it, you can't handle it. And if someone judges me, I should not cry and whine. If I judge someone, and we all judge people every day, every moment is a judgment. That's why there's a saying called judgment call. Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to the new format. That's not to say I don't enjoy the conversations had in this one. Again, I enjoy when a conversation organically goes. If we're in the middle of whatever I'm talking about, or what I've got planned, whether it be discernment, divorce, remarriage, or whatever it may be, again, it's not about me. The channel is always created to be a born again Christians, we the people style of things. So that's why this channel is created. It's not about just me. I'm willing to go in any direction. Even if I don't know the answers, like George Antonio sometimes says, he doesn't know and then he looks it up. And it's okay, by the way, not to know everything. Yes, and that verse in Matthew 7 in context speaks of righteous judgment. Amen. But again, I used to always say this. I used to say, if I'm in a bar, and I'm not in a bar, if I'm in a bar and I'm just pounding back beers, right? Or I'm just pounding back shots, and I look at the guy next to me and they're smoking, and I'm sitting there going, hey, you shouldn't smoke. That's bad for you. Who am I to judge him for smoking when I'm sitting there pounding back beers? You know, that's how when I use that as an analogy when I talk to people and I'm witnessing back in the day. And I haven't been out in a little bit now, and I got to get back to it. I really do got to witness more. And their comment is always saying, shouldn't judge. And then I got to go in judgment and stuff like that. And I explain righteous judgment. And I tell, look at it this way. And I judge that. It's kind of like when I judge hypocrisy and I tell them, you're right. They're always astounded when I say they're right on something. When they'll say, oh, Christians are hypocrites. Yeah, you're right. And that really throws them off. What? A lot of so-called Christians are, but I always tell them they're not real Christians. They're false converts, because I always say the same thing. What have I said? I use the same analogy all the time. If an atheist and a Christian walk into the same movie theater or the same exact movie film, some horror flick or Marvel, whatever it is, how are they different? Are you going to witness that person after you went and just saw Chucky? Yeah, I know that's a horror movie from the 80s. I don't know of any horror movies today, so I don't know what them. I don't have a pulse on the new movies that are out there, but whatever horror movie might be out there. Are you going to witness them right outside? Or even after the movie or before the movie? You can't. You've destroyed your witness. You got nothing. Some people are so afraid of being called judgmental. I'll jokingly call them judgmental if they say something that sounds like judging, or I'll say, I love judging. Sarcasm. Yeah. So I was working at a particular place, and someone there didn't like me. And because I refused, well, I didn't so much refuse, I didn't use the name that they liked to be called. And I called them a different version of it. Yeah. So we know we're going down this whole pronoun thing, right? And this was kind of way back in the beginning of this. It's like back in COVID, like way back then when it was just getting like its infant stages of the he, she, it, they, thou, whatever's. I saw a magnet. It said something about magnet for coal miners or gold miners. It says there's gold up in them there hills. I thought that was funny. But they were a girl trying to be a boy, and their real name was Gabe. So I kept on calling. What does she want? I forget what the name. Oh, she wants to be called Gabe, but her name was something else. I forgot what her name was. And the worst thing that manager could have ever did was tell me the name, because that was terrible. So I called them Gabriella. So they told the manager that they were offended. And this became a joke other people used years later, but I actually used this term a long time ago. I told them with a deadpan face, I say, listen, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm offended by you being offended by what I say. It hurts my feelings, and I feel emotionally distraught. And then I'd walk away. And then they would say I'm not funny. I thought I was. But, you know, people are going to say, you shouldn't put people like that down. I'm like, they put themselves down. We want to help them. I did let them know that they're going to hell like that. And they didn't care, by the way. They're like, oh, I'll have fun in hell. I'll party in hell. Yeah, no, you won't. No, you won't. You will not be the belle of the ball. Let me tell you. You will not be. Just, you know, it's crazy how they get that direction. It took me a long time to realize and admit I had been deceived by someone or a ministry, but and it'll probably happen again. But the Holy Spirit always shows me the truth and opens my eyes. Yeah, sometimes I think there are times that, not sure the best way to say this, but in a weird way, I feel God allows us in certain cases to be deceived for a reason, so we learn from something. I believe that to be a case, but I don't think he allows us to be deceived for too long. He opens up our eyes, so to speak. And I do believe that. And that happens. I talked about that guy earlier with the old time radio. I'm like, man, I at first was but somehow kept on going that direction. In fact, the reason that ended, by the way, was I called him out on air by not really calling them out. He had said pastors. I think he said pastors is nowhere in the New Testament, and just it wasn't an argument. And I just off the cuff, I'm like, and I just said, it's in Ephesians, and but I wasn't saying it to be sarcastic or try to call him out. I just, I knew it was in Ephesians, so I just went, it's in Ephesians, and I went back to looking at something. I don't know what it was because he was talking or doing his part of the radio, the program, whatever. And so I'm like, and then he called me the next day and he said, hey, listen, I don't know what's going on, but you seem to be digging for something and trying to find something bad about me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So that's when I really knew that my initial reaction or my initial feeling on him was correct. But in hindsight, as Brother Calvin mentioned before, I then realized why I had to be in that situation, and the hindsight of those things, why I was put in that situation. I was put there for a reason, for a small time frame, for a good purpose. Just like Brother David being at his job place, he's in a place where he needs to be at this moment in time. So whatever that moment is, I don't know, and he may not know yet, but it might come to pass, and he'll learn what will happen in time. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. So I would be mindful of all things, and we're going to talk about that. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next week, so just so you know that, because I'll have a plan to go with one thing. Is three of the things I got on my paperwork for next, and I could just. That's why I wait till. Hold on. What? Exactly. I already said that, or you said that. That is not the seed for long. Yeah. And there may be a reason why we're there. Like I said, I mean, you had mentioned in your very kind words, Dunslinger. Well, there was a reason you were there for a brief amount of time. It may not have been because God thought you needed to learn something great from him. It might have been that you had to see something there, something that you needed to be exposed to and say, aha, he knew. Whatever you learn from that, you learn from that, and it's all for the better. Doesn't mean that person was good or great or bad. You learned something. You came away with a deeper knowledge of something, and you now are able to use that now in hindsight to help people and for your case, to avoid something like that. So it makes you a better teacher to be exposed to something like that, you're able to send the flare gun out and get the warning up. Um, so I think that's important. I even with Flint Truth Ministries there. I just don't know why he calls himself a ministry. To be honest with you, but again, same thing. When he points out the flaws of this person, the hypocrisy, and things like that some people may not have caught or saw. Yeah, that helps. Now, should we be doing like 100 videos on somebody? No, I think you made your point. You just kind of there it is, and it's out there, especially on the internet today. The right person's going to come across it and like, oh my goodness, I never knew that, and then that helps them along the way. Um, I think sometimes again we have such a strong desire sometimes for something that we do get deceived by it, and because we want, and sometimes it's our own doing, by the way, we want what we want, and we find out the hard way that's not something we should have wanted. But you move forward, you move on, you don't live in the past, as they say. Sometimes we forget that witnessing simply means being there in a moment just to see or experience something. We also forget, yeah, I believe sometimes the person you're witnessing to, if you're out evangelizing, sometimes it's not that person that you're supposed to be witnessing to. In fact, the person you're witnessing to, you may never know that you're witnessing to, because you could be in a store. It's only happened to me one time. Is why I think if it happened one time, my small little speck of the world, it has to happen somewhere else, right? You could be talking to somebody, right, and they're just not hearing you. You're trying to witness them. They're not listening. But you notice somebody over the side to stand there, they're kind of looking kind of at you. They kind of have that deer in headlights or the like they're stealing something, right? They look suspicious, but they're listening to you. And I got that sense. I'm like, is that guy listening to me? Why is he just standing there, keeps on listening and looking over? He can't look at the hostess cupcake section that long. He was over the chips and all that stuff like that. So, and it dawned on me afterwards. I'm like, wait, I wonder if that person was supposed to hear what I had to say. And I was like, maybe I should go back in. And then I heard something at the gas pump, and I lost my train of thought, forgot, and I left. That wasn't an accident. I was purposely distracted. The Lord had me distracted, and I forgot, and I moved on. But that can happen. You can be in a situation where you don't know that you're witnessing to someone. You should always be talking. You should always be out there somewhere, talking to someone, speaking to someone. I told them I don't fear COVID, I fear God when I was at Aldi's. That was a part I always forget that part. So I was at Aldi's during COVID, and I had no mask on. Not because I was trying to be the whole, I'm anti-government, blah, 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 blah. No, I was anti the mask because didn't need it because the numbers didn't point to me wearing a mask. Excuse me. That's all there was to it. Follow the science. So I'm in there, and this lady keeps on looking at me. And I get behind her in line, Aldi's, and she looks at me and she goes, and then she says to me, aren't you worried someone's going to tell you to take off your mask? I'm like, oh no. She said, how did you get away with wearing not wearing a mask? That's what it was. That's how she started it. I'm like, oh man. And then she said about the mask taking it off, blah, blah, blah. And so I says, I don't really care what they say. I said, I just went through this whole store. They didn't kick me out one time. Nobody came up to me. I'm not really concerned about it. Other people want to wear a mask, wear your mask. I'm not concerned about it. I'm not afraid for my life. I'm not worried. I'm not concerned about it. The numbers aren't there. I'm not going to be controlled by them. And that's when I did tell her, I'm not afraid of anybody, but I am afraid of God. And then she slowly took off her mask. It was just weird to stay. It's like she was so worried and scared somebody was going to say something about her. And it goes back to what Brother Jorge was saying earlier about being, fearful of being ostracized or anything like that. Or, oh no, I don't care. I'm not worried about it. But then I spoke to her briefly. I'm like, and God did not give us the spirit of fear, man. Ma'am, the only thing we should be worried about is going to heaven, not if Dr. Fauci wants to have us all killed. And then she was smiling, and I didn't get any further than that. And she checked out. But to me, it's kind of dropping a seed at that point. And then if I ever see her again, I would have said something again, or maybe somebody else will be in her path. That happens as well. Remember that someone else might be coming up right behind you. There's always that possibility. You could be the one. Someone else could be the one. So I think sometimes when we're a lack of a better phrasing, soul winning, we're not hyper soul winning or soul winning. We need to not focus on, I've got to be the one. I've got to be the one. You speak whatever you're going to speak. And if they're going to hear it, they're going to hear it. If they're not, they're not. And it might be something they do hear. And it's just like, whatever. It sits in the back of their brain. And something else comes along and happens to them. And now that pops in, that conversation pops in their brain again. So I wore a face diaper twice. Only because face diaper. I've never heard that one. That's a new one for me. I haven't heard that one. I wore a face diaper twice only because of hospital regulations when my mom was in there. No, I understand. I'm not. I'm more apt to wear a mask in a doctor's visit than I am anywhere else, and that's where the sick people are. But I think I wore a mask. I think. Oh yeah. I wore a mask at the Manchester Hospital because I was delivering ice cream at that time. So I work for a company called New England Ice Cream Truck Company, and they have large B trucks, and so I delivered ice cream. That's what I did, not to like variety stores. Well, we did them too, but to hospitals, schools, and stuff like that. And I got thrown off. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't thinking about it. I go in there, and she goes up. They hands and goes, oh, here you go. Here's your mask. I'm like, what? I got thrown off, and they're like, yeah, well, you have to wear a mask to go in. I'm like, all right. Put the mask on, delivered. Told my boss, I said, hey, I'm not doing Manchester Hospital again because I'm not wearing a mask. He goes, well, you can't deny. I'm like, I'm just letting you know if you can get somebody else to do it that likes to wear the mask. He goes, all right, fine. So, and that's what happened. Another person had that route until the mask thing stopped. And then it was back on my route. But, again, I know this is weird that we're talking about masks. I'll give you a good example. The Cumbies. If you don't know what a Cumbies is, it's called Cumberland Farms. Down in my area, we have Weigel's, and that would be like the Cumberland Farms. In Florida, I saw a gas station I saw several of, and now I can't remember what name of it is, but they seem to be big down there. So I'm at a Cumbies. My son goes in. 2 lesbians. That's right. I said lesbians on purpose. These abominations went off on him and was screaming at him at the door about he has to wear his mask. Now, I'm not doing anything, by the way. I'm just sitting there in the car. I don't care. I'm just seeing what he's going to do, and got to let him fly right and stand up for things. But anyways, so he told them he can't wear a mask because he has asthma. Now, I did have a conversation with him, by the way, about that, and I wasn't happy. I told him that's lying, dude. Don't lie to stand up for the truth or what you believe. Just stand up for the truth. So I kind of laid in on him on that one. But anyway, so he told me he had asthma, and if he wears a mask, possibly he could have breathing problems and die. And they literally told him exactly what he told. I believe my son when he says to me, because they said they don't care. You're risking people's lives. And I thought, how does that make any sense? If he risks his own life, isn't that risking lives? Anyways, but at that same Cumbies, I remember walking in there, and the lady said, you got to wear a mask. I'm like, yeah, okay. And got my stuff. Next time you come in here, you have to wear a mask. I says, okay. And I said, I'll see you tomorrow. And I came in tomorrow, and she was there. I had no mask. I smiled and said good morning, and she just looked at me. Went and got what I got. I got a Smart Water. Smart Water, a 5-hour energy, and probably my guess is a bag of Lay's chips. That was my thing back then. And I walked back out. See, we have to not be afraid to stand up for things, because a lot of people are bark with no bite. You know, like the root beer bark has a bite. They used to, but then they tamed that down. Now it's not as got a bite like it used to back in the day. But they're not going to do anything. What are they going to do? We have to be more fearful of God than we do, man. We used to have Cumberland Farms. Yeah, convenience stores in Florida. Really? Oh, you know what? Yes, you do. You still do. Wow, I forgot that Florida does have Cumberland Farms. So when we were in Pensacola, over by, I don't know what that main highway is, but it's going near, in the area of the Baptist bookstore there that we went to, down that main stretch, because I remember having to stop there because I said, well, we got to stop at the Cumbies. There's a Cumbies in Florida. I said, we got to stop. So you do still have some Cumbies. There's one in Pensacola. It's going to bother me now. Whatever that highway is or a road, there's a long stretch right there. I forgot all about that. I feel bad now saying that Florida doesn't have any. I don't know what you got, but yeah, you got that one. But I don't know what your actual big gas stations are. But Pensacola obviously is up on the Panhandle area. It's right, next door to Alabama Gulf Shores, which that's a nice little drive right there. Get to see the ocean. Love the ocean. I don't really go into the ocean much, but I do love the ocean. It's beautiful. Just looking out that vast ocean of God's creation. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But yeah. So I think we have to stand up even like we did then. We had no problem standing up during COVID. You notice that? A lot of Christians call themselves Christian. They actually stand up. Well, I'm not standing up. I'm not going to wear a mask. We had a lot more secular people actually than Christians. The things I don't know could fill a pallet or possibly a truck. Well, I fill trucks with pallets, so I guess that'll help. Yeah, I agree. I don't mean just you. I mean all of us. I'm going to speak for all of us here because I don't think any one of you here is that type of person. Yeah, there's still a lot of things we don't know. I think people think they know. I think there are people that know more than others. There's no doubt about that. But I guess I would conclude the evening. We're like winding it down here, saying that we really need to stand out. We need to actually be the peculiar persons, the peculiar people that we are, as Peter talks about. We really need to be, and I find it less and less. We have these fake men revivals that are run by like Glenn Beck and the other guy from ESPN. I forget his name. We have. Sorry about that. I got distracted. I just heard gunshots. No, I'm not in Chicago. I'm in rural country. I'm out by a cornfield, and I got one guy through the woods. So that way is a cornfield. That way is cornfield. That way is cows. And right through the small amount of woods back here, you go through the woods, and there's a house over on the other side. And he fires off his AR-10 or 15. But usually he'll do it in the daytime or on a weekend or something like that. But he does, if he hears something out there like a coyote or something like that, he'll randomly fire off into the woods, not in my direction, but in the other direction. So when I hear that, I usually have I have a carry that I have out here. Sometimes I have my rifle, but I have my carry pistol, and I use that to go in the house because we can have coyotes out here. We can have bears as well. As if my 9mm is going to stop a bear, but I'll give it a shot if I have to. Literally, I'll give it a shot if I have to. So sorry about that. When I turned quickly, I got distracted for a second there. I remember I'm trying to wind it down, but I remember I was sitting on the back porch with my father, and we grew up in the city. And a city of I don't know, I'm guessing about 45,000 people up in Fitchburg, and my dad lived in a pretty bad neighborhood. And if you hear a gunshot in that neighborhood, you're tense. You're like, Was that a gunshot? Now here, when there's a gunshot, I'm like, Mike's home. It's a different scenario down here. It's just a different atmosphere. Which I'm glad I have someone. I met him once, but he builds his own AR-15s or AR-10s, I think. AR-10s or AR-15s, something like that. Seemed like a nice guy. He's related to the people that actually own all the land around me because it's a big farm. The guy owns all the way down this road and all that stuff like that. So it's nice to be out here sometimes. It's quiet, but the downside of that is you get some wild animals out there as well. You probably get them up there too in Ringe, up in New Hampshire there, Brother Jorge, because you're out in the sticks, out in the boonies, as they like to call it. So, yeah, that happens. But listen, it's going on 3 hours. I never thought I would ever be a 3-hour video, but I've been making some that's gone a long time, which I'm surprised by. So I'm going to... It's really been a pleasure. Hope to see you all next. Same BA. That was a good one. Back place, back time. Godspeed, y'all. And to you as well, sir. Thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate everything you brought to the table tonight. Thank you. And same here. I'm going to start awkwardly hitting the end stream, going 3 hours in, because I'm not usually a 3-hour guy. I never thought I would be. Never used to be, but here we are. But hey, if the conversation's there, I guess I'll go ahead and keep talking. All right, but thank you. I really do appreciate it. As always, incredibly thankful and grateful that the conversations tonight, and I couldn't be more. Gratitude couldn't flow any more than it does now. So thank you. I appreciate it. And with that, I'll awkwardly hit the end stream button. Good night, everybody. God bless. And if I don't talk to you at another point in time, I'll talk to you next week. God bless.